All right. Good evening, Pours with Patriots family. Good to have another Army guy back in. I had a lot of fun taking down the Marine flag that was up and the Navy flag. I always love putting the Army flag up. I want to put up the Pours with Patriots flag. We just got a new one, but I thought we'd honor the Army. But I'd like to welcome everyone to episode 36 of Pours with Patriots. Welcome another Army guy, like I said, a former Army captain, Logan Evans.
Welcome, Logan. Me. Thank you.
Logan was here as an audience member a few episodes back with the crazy Marine we had on, Larry. He's back here with him too, so it's good to see you again, Larry. We talked him into it, but thanks for coming on.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And we have to start. We've never had this disclaimer, but we have to start a disclaimer here. Is we're jumping to his personal life, but his wife is pregnant.
Less than a month
out from baby. So if his phone vibrates and he has to bolt, that's why it's a legitimate thing. I think he should probably go get home to the baby. But so if he disappears out here, that's what it is. We have a backup coming in. Hopefully, if not, we'll figure it out. But that's a cool disclaimer to have. So let's start off with that. So first, we'll start off with that. We'll start first kid.
Yes.
First child, I guess we're supposed to say. You ready for your life to change?
I don't know. I'm kind of like, it like hits me and then I'm like, oh, I'll be all right. And then I'm like, oh, this is actually happening. I got to like put stuff together kind of thing. So
is everything ready now?
Yeah, I think I got the essentials, right? Like the stroller, the crib, car seat. Like we'll figure it.
It's like the car seat in ready to go, or is it still?
Well, and her car, not mine.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get it straight. It's not going in my car. But everything's ready. You guys ready?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
I'll tell you when it hits that it's real is when you take the baby home. And you're having a baby girl, right?
Yes.
Do you have a name, or are you keep it quiet?
No, Blair James.
Oh, that's cool. Pretty name. But it gets real that when after you from the hospital, a couple days after we stopped visiting you, and then you're like looking at the baby, you're like, holy shit. There's nobody here. This baby's not going anywhere. And
they're letting me take this home. Like
shame on them. What the family do. Well, that's a good thing. So like I said, that's a great disclaimer to start off. So if you has to bolt, that's the reason why. So we'll start off in if you've seen a little bit about what I posted about Logan's a former Army intelligence officer, and now is a deputy U.S. Marshal. So we'll start off with a quote here, an intelligence quote. It's getting harder to find intelligence quotes. The first one that comes up with military intelligence is they're not good quotes about it.
Oh, absolutely. I've probably heard it.
Yeah. But we'll start off with a quote by George Washington. It says, "Do not spare any reasonable expense to come at early and true information, always recollecting and bearing in mind that vague and uncertain accounts of things are most disturbing and dangerous than receiving none at all." So it kind of applies to, your career as a military intelligence officer as well as your career as a deputy U.S. Marshal. So unlike everyone else, he's actually not from Ohio. That's not true. He's actually, all my guests, like 90% from Ohio. I don't want to keep hoping it's going to change, but it never does. So we have another Ohio guy. Grew up Wilmington?
Yes.
So for all the people not from Ohio, where's that at?
Clinton County. So it's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. Clinton County is 45 minutes from Dayton, Cincinnati, and a little bit an hour south of Columbus. So we always say it's like the Bermuda Triangle. You're like right there in the middle of nowhere, like the passing through to get to one of the major cities. So yeah, small town, high school, graduating class, like 140 people. So yeah, just small Ohio country school. But family's from there. Both my parents grew up in Wilmington. So yeah, my whole family's still there. So
you get close there or Dayton area?
Yeah, so I'm right by Wright Pat Air Force Base,
Okay.
like in Beaver Creek. So 15 minutes out of Dayton and 35 minutes from Wilmington still. And both my wife and my family's still there. So
awesome. So growing up there playing sports, you're talking a little bit about
wrestling? I did. I grew up playing everything like most kids did. Football was my favorite. Big football school out there, Clint Massey. I think it's still pretty relevant with the Ohio sports and stuff like that. But growing up, small town is kind of what you did, right? That's where you made your friends and everybody. You just went from one season to the next. So yeah, it was good.
So no aspirations to play sports in college?
I did. I really wanted to, and then I was getting recruited going into my junior year, and I actually had 3 stress fractures in my spine between my junior and senior year, and kind of slowed my career down. And at that point, I was more interested in finding my girlfriend and hanging out and doing that sort of thing. So it didn't work out for me.
So interesting about you. So you had, graduate from high school 2011.
Yep.
Head to college.
Yes.
At that time, we'll talk a little bit about his career, but Logan's an actual OCS, Officer Candidate School officer, so a little bit different. I don't know if we've had an OCS guy on before. Larry's giving him the thumbs down. But they're always like that. He's like,
he can walk home.
I'm just glad my dad's on here. Yeah, exactly. It's a long walk back. Yeah. But a little bit different source that we talked about for the people that aren't familiar with the military. So a lot of it is, the service academies, ROTC, and the other option is what Logan did with his Officer Candidate School. So you went into college. Did you have any aspirations at that time to go into the military?
I did. So my grandpa served in Vietnam, and I always kind of wanted to go. I always had that itch that I wanted to do it. My freshman year, I went to OU, continued to do that whole partying thing a little too much. I told my dad, I'm just going to enlist. And he was like, well, you can't, if you don't like the military, you can't quit. So you're not going to quit college. Like, you started it, finish it. So honestly, looking back on it, yeah, dad's always right. So he's like, if you still want to go when you're done, it's not going anywhere, but you need to finish school. You started it, finish it. So transferred back to Wilmington College, and I ended up, going there, and that's where I finished school. And when I graduated, and still had that itch to do it, so then started to pursue that route and really research all the branches and figure out where I wanted to go. Of course, I decided on the Army.
So let's go back though. So what was you looked at all the different branches at that time?
I did.
So what were you leaning towards? Was Army really your first choice?
It was. I researched the officer program. With the Army, the way I understood it with OCS, all branches have OCS or their version of it. I'm not sure if it's all called OCS, but the Army, the way they did it at the time, and I think they still do it, was like an OML. So however, where you placed in the class, you chose your job. I know the Marines told me you're going to go where the Marines need you. The Navy said it would depend on what you tested into or sort of things like that. And I liked having that control of my fate. I couldn't be upset with anybody but myself. So if I finished dead last and I got a job I didn't like, it's just me to blame. So it ended up working out that way. That was kind of where I leaned towards that I liked having that more of that control going into it.
Right. And OML is Order of Merit List. That's based on where you graduate in your class. That's not very normal in a lot of things. I didn't even know that either. I guess that they did that.
So you don't know. You don't know how many of each branch is going to be offered at graduation. Branch types of MOS or jobs, whether it's infantry, intel, armor, whatever. You don't know how many your class is going to be offered. But the day that you choose your branch, they line you up in order of where you're at in the class. So 1 through 30 or 40 or whatever you're at. And you walk up to the table and they have the branch insignias on the table and you grab yours. So when you get to the table, whatever's on there is on there.
Oh God, I bet the one I want better be up there. If not, I should study harder. But yeah, you're different than some of the OCS guys I know from the Army. A lot of it is also people that were prior enlisted.
Yes.
There's another program that the Army does as well for OCS. And I think that's probably more predominant, or maybe not, I don't know. That you're in the military for a little while, then you become a junior NCO, and then you apply and you go to Officer Candidate School. But yours is a little bit different. You actually went to basic combat training.
Yep.
Knowing that you're going to go into OCS immediately. So
yes. So it was called an 09 Sierra contract. I went to Fort Benning, went through infantry basic training. I was actually the last all male class at Fort Benning. And we got ACUs. We were the last people to be issued ACUs. So they were all 5 sizes too big, and you got what you got. After completing that, got on a bus, went straight down the road to OCS. And it was interesting because here I am 10 weeks into the Army. I don't know anything. I'm just, happy I got right place, right time. So, and then there was, I think 2 E8s in my OCS class. There was an E7, multiple, E4s, E5 guys with multiple years of experience. And then there were several of us who had nothing more than basic training. And then here you are 13 weeks of just getting it shoved down your throat of here's ROTC or West Point's 4 years.
4 years condensed into 13 weeks.
Yeah. So,
but back to basic training. So I think, everybody obviously in your basic training class knew that you were including, your fellow soldiers and drill sergeants. How was that vibe knowing that you're not going to AIT, but you're, advanced individual training, or you're going to become an officer in 13 weeks. Did you get a lot of shit for that?
Yeah, because
I would hope so. Yes. I'm hoping you did. If you said no, I'm gonna be like, you mother.
Absolutely. The other junior enlisted hated you because you were E4 rank, and they knew you made more money. And then the drill sergeants, I just always remember like, oh, you think you should be my boss? You know more than me? And you're like, no, I don't know anything. So yeah, you definitely caught it. You were a target. They knew you were there. You were expected to, your physical fitness standards were expected to be better and that sort of thing. But it was also good because as you progress through basic, they took us aside, like some of the senior drill sergeants did, and like mentored us and like kind of like, hey, you're going on to do something like this, like, and some of them did, others did not care for you at all. And then didn't want to give you the time of day, but some did. Some actually took us aside and tried to like mentor us a little bit as to what to expect.
Yeah. Cause we were talking about that and I was typing up your bio, I thought that was crazy. Cause I'd never in my time had seen that where, it started how you did it. She's like I said, it was like an E4 up to like, I've never heard B8, but it's definitely not like 10 weeks and then 13 weeks.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine there was a lot of eyes on you guys and gals doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
To outperform everybody. Cause again, that's one of the things that is interesting about the military. A lot of people that don't know is you can't be an officer that does the minimum like push-ups or sit-ups or things like that. It doesn't work out well for you.
Yeah, it's career suicide.
You better be able to run really fast. And it's the craziest thing. It's not a comp, but the physical fitness is an important thing. If you don't, if you do know, but I just think that would be an interesting, way to go through the shock of the military. Because bending, isn't easy. And then to be like, knowing that you're just literally like going in 13 weeks, literally could come back and tell that drill sergeant, I am in charge of you now, but which is crazy. So in your OCS class, what percentage of you were there? You like the what the
I would
09,
say,
what is 09 Sierra? What percentage of your OCS class?
I would say probably 50-50 was came out of basic, whether it was at Benning or from another, Carolina or wherever else it came out of. But there was a lot of prior enlisted there. But during OCS, part of the big grading portions of that is your role. So you're going to get put in a leadership role, like whether that's a first sergeant, a platoon leader, or the company commander, whatever, and you get graded on that. And that's part of like how you finish in that OML. And it seemed like the guys who came from straight out of basic had the higher and more difficult roles, like first sergeant or company commander, that sort of thing. Guys who had prior leadership experience are like, you're the squad leader. Like that's your graded position. Like they wanted to put those guys in the fire, the ones that had no experience at all, which I agreed with, but it was horrible. I came out, I was the first sergeant my first week of OCS. And of course that's like, indoctrination week. That's what I said. I was like, I don't even know what the first sergeant does.
You're supposed to yell at a lot of people. No, there's no officers for you to yell at. That's what first sergeants like to do a lot of. But that's an interesting. That's an interesting thing to start off. I think of the people that aren't in the military they might get what you're saying. But if you were in the military, to be thrust into that where you're literally competing against, now you talk about you're going up against them to find out what your career is. Yeah. And you find out that some guy or girl has been there in the military for 12 years. You have to feel like you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Right?
It's absolutely like it. It's like you have to be a team because everything in the Army is a team. But then at the same time, you're like, what do I do to stand out to where I'm going to because you don't know what all was graded. It just seemed like everything was a test every day. So it's definitely a lot of pressure to perform on everything, and you didn't. But then there's also peer evals, just like there is in like every other Army school, and people were kicked out. So if you're stepping on everybody's toes, trying to make yourself look good all the time, that just came back to bite you.
So how were the peers there compared to the 09 Sierras, compared to the prior enlisted? Was there like did you feel like there was you talked about some drill sergeants helping you. Yeah. Did you feel like there was animosity between the prior enlisted OCS folks? Was it the same way as basic training? Were they helping you? What did you feel like?
Yeah, mostly help, unless you were not humbled. Like there was people, obviously it's your personality, right? If you came in, thought you knew everything and you whatever, no one's going to help you.
10 weeks,
so it really came down to you. But I like to say the military has some of the best and worst people, but you end up finding like a good group of people, and
everybody in the military that's in the audience, they all just went and looked at each other like, yeah, that's true. But I think you have a variety of talent, right? There's definitely people that for the most part, I would put everybody, most people I was in the military, they're quality people. They're just, same. It's a great organization. So you start out there, so you talked about OML, right? Where did you finish? There was military
Ninth.
intelligence one year.
I finished 9th, and I was the last military intelligence.
So is that what you wanted? Was that your number one?
So you have a mentor, a captain that oversees like your platoon while you're there, and he kept telling me to take infantry branch detail MI. So essentially, you do your time as a lieutenant, as an infantry officer, and then you would go at career course. You would go to intel school. But something told me, I was like, well, I want something, if I don't want to stay here, that's going to benefit me to move on, like in the civilian world of what I wanted to do. So I kind of like gamed it of like, well, intel is very broad and you get the clearance and everything else. And I was like, if that's where I was going to end up anyway, like, why not just start there? So,
Right.
And after 23 weeks of being in Fort Benning, I was done with anything infantry at that time. I was like, I'm out of here.
You're like, I'm done now.
Yeah.
So was everything on the table at the time when you went up at 9?
Yep.
Or was it, so
Yeah, everything was still up there. That was the last intel slot, though. I was the last one to take that. And then most guys, I think the people before me, there was obviously, excuse me, there was 2 guys that, like the number 1 guy in my class, I think he's still in. He took infantry. His parents were like a general and a colonel, and he's probably going to see him on Fox News someday. I don't know, but yeah, everything was still on the table. But towards the end, there's a lot of transportation. There's a lot of field artillery. A lot of the branches that like a lot of people like takes more people, and a lot of people don't want to go that route most of the time. Like people think of like Army, like infantry or armor or whatever. But yeah,
you're like, oh god, I should have studied more.
Yeah. Yes.
But the guy who finished number 1, was he a 09 Sierra or was he a pilot? So that's interesting. So
yeah.
I guess I kind of look at it as like, to me, it's like you haven't got all the bad habits, right? So there's a lot of things you like talk about and anything, where you want to like mold somebody that's new. I guess that program, because they even did it with the Special Forces community too. You start off, I think when I was getting out, they had the baby Green Beret program where you can enter and go right in. Well, that's not normal, and then staying in. So it's just you're the first one I've ever met that did it that way. So it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and
I'm excited. I don't know if anybody else is, but it's like, oh, that's cool.
I liked it in the perspective of you could relate. Like you knew what it felt like to be a junior enlisted and to be like, when somebody's down your throat like that. So it's like I took that as a leader, like, hey, I know what that feels like. Like if you've never been in that position where you've always come in with some sort of authority, it's different. So I appreciated like coming from that and like being able to relate what they went through, like junior enlisted going through basic and AIT sort of.
Yeah, so much fresher than somebody that's been in for 12 years and kind of put that in the past. So you get your choice of branches. Yep. Right. For the love of God, tell me that Fort Bliss was not your choice of duty.
No.
I mean, how does this work? I mean, I feel like they're like, hey, we're going to give you something really good, and by the way,
here you go. Going to Fort Bliss. No, so with branches with OCS, it was weird. So we were always told West Point gets their first pick, and then ROTC, and then OCS kind of gets the scraps. But I got a call from HRT. I mean, why have I been H? What's
the H? Yeah, I know you're talking about the
yes,
the branch. Like
yes,
the branch HRC.
HRC. Thank you. And they said, "Do you want to go to Fort Campbell?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Sounds great." 2 weeks later, I got my orders, and it was like Fort Bliss. I was like, "Whoa! That's not what we agreed to." So I called back, and he's like, "Oh, well, we can't do that now, but you could go to Polk." And I was like, I'll just go to Bliss.
I think you made a good choice. Those are the 2 places I said I think. We always laughed at the word. There's no great place to be stationed in the Army. I mean,
yes,
but that's not true. But there are some good ones. But Polk and
it's just
and Fort Bliss out in El Paso. So you head out to El Paso. You go to the famed 1st Armored Division.
Yeah.
2nd Battalion. You first start off with 4th Battalion, 6th Infantry, 3rd Brigade Combat Team.
Yep.
AD.
Yep. So I started off. So obviously after OCS, go to Bolick and then get the intel school stuff. And then when I got to Bliss, signed to 4th 6th Infantry, I went straight to the 2 shop, which is the intel shop for those who aren't aware. I was assigned as the assistant security officer. So I was under a captain and they were just rotating back from Kuwait. And that was the other thing. So when I was at Huachuca, I volunteered to go to Bliss early because they were deploying to Iraq, and I was like, "Yes, I want to go." They said they need lieutenants. can we get 6 of you to go? And obviously it wasn't that hard to find people to want to get out of there and get over there. And I get there and I get assigned and I'm thinking like, oh, okay, I'm going to rotate out with them. They're like, no, that battalion's on their way back from Kuwait. Like this brigade's going to Iraq. So it just didn't end up working out for me. Like, you're assigned where you're assigned. So my first 3 months, I think I would report like during the day and I'd see a major and I'd say, do you need anything from me? And he'd forget who I was half the time. And then
he'd be like, Evans, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
How did you get here?
And then he would be like, no. And I sat in a cubicle for like 2 months and I was like, what am I doing here? So it was finally when everybody kind of rotated back, started, working with the guys and doing things, but they were just on that back cycle. So, I mean, it was very slow for me. And I was just very like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was depressed. I just didn't like it.
I think it's crazy because this is, so we were going to talk about, I mean, we'll get to it eventually as we do in most things here, but here you are, like you said before, you're brand new to the military. You really have like, 23 weeks of experience to become an officer.
Yeah.
Not that that doesn't work, but then all of a sudden now you go to, you get sent out to a unit. These folks are coming back from being deployed. You got to feel like, what the fuck did I just get myself into?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're all coming back from this. They've related that together. It was a non-combat deployment. They had just rotated to Kuwait, but like you're just this guy that's in their way. And like, they just want to be home and no one's, we're not training. We're not doing anything like that. And I'm just this young, eager guy, like just wanting to like do something. And I had thought going to Bliss that I was going to deploy. And that's what, that's why people join up. Well, at least part of the reason I joined up, I wanted to go. Like I didn't want to, wanted to do my part. And so that was hard for me. But eventually, as time went on and we started to get back into the like training cycles and stuff like that, I like those guys. It was a small shop. There was, I think, 4 soldiers, 1 NCO, and then myself and a captain. Being that captain did not get along, but story for another time. And then
this is the perfect time.
So it goes back to that whole PT thing, right? He wouldn't PT with the guys, and he actually failed 3 PT tests in a row, and him and the NCO didn't get along, and I was kind of getting pulled in the middle, and eventually it got to the point where he was removed and he was sent to brigade because he was just not getting along with anybody. He was kind of doing his own thing. The guys felt like he was being held to a different standard because they failed 2 in a row. They're getting kicked out. And I agreed with him. I didn't think it was right. Like, you should hold yourself to a higher standard. You're the leader. And so him and I just didn't get along. He was removed and moved up to the brigade. And I sat as the 2 for a minute. And then they ended up offering me a platoon in the military intelligence company in a different battalion. So I moved over. But yeah, so 4-6 was just a weird experience of just like showing up, not getting along, nothing to do.
I'll come there early.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different time, and we'll talk about a little bit what's interesting about Logan's career. We've had some other people on before, and you got to put it into time perspective for people that aren't thinking this. But this is 2011 or 12, right? 12.
No, that was when I graduated high school. This is like 2015, 16.
So this is there's been a couple wars that have been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
People are you have tons of people that have been already your unit comes back from a non-combat deployment, but you have people that were you want to be. You want to be going this way, and I think most of the people at that time, were like coming back this way and being like, "Dude, we do not want to go,
absolutely
back that way." So chill out.
Understandably, right? Yeah.
So I mean, I just can't imagine the time, and then how you got commissioned is even crazier to put it on top of it. It's a really like fast, thrown into the fire. You know what I mean?
It really is, and to me, like, I was thankful. One, like I said, my grandpa was an NCO in Vietnam, and before I commissioned, he never talked to me about any of his experiences and that sort of thing. But he did tell me, like, you need to be, he wanted me to go the officer route. And he said to be the officer that they needed. And just like, you need to facilitate what your guys need. It's not about you. And I took that to heart. And then I took to heart what those drill sergeants talked to us at basic, like, it's not about you. Like, you need to like take care of your guys. And that's kind of where I took my focus, especially when I became a platoon leader. I didn't care about what I wasn't doing intel work on a daily basis, but if this guy really wants to go to this school because he thinks it's going to further his career, I'm going to go argue for him in a meeting. I'm going to really push to make sure they're getting their training, because the platoon I took over was a multi-functions platoon. So there were analysts, there were HUMIC guys, so interrogators, SIGINT with all that crazy equipment, signals intelligence. So I had to like kind of learn all of their stuff and what they needed. And I thought the best thing I could do for them, I told the platoon sergeant on the day, I was like, this is your platoon. I'm just here to help you. Like, I'm just here to facilitate what you need me. What do you need from me? So I got a lot of guys going to, like, I got a couple guys sent to some CIA level interrogation schools. Nobody had gotten to do that before, but I just argued that it was important. Like, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to further their career. So that's where I took my focus. I knew I wasn't what I wanted. When I joined up, I wanted to obviously do my part. I wanted to deploy, and like that was in my heart and everything, but that wasn't, what that's just wasn't in the cards, right?
What they needed, like I said.
So I just tried to do what I could to be the best guy for my guys. So hopefully I left with a good impression. I don't know, but it was, that's what my whole goal was making sure that those guys got what they wanted.
Yeah, but anybody that's in the military, that's been a platoon leader in a leadership position, you probably made some people happy, other people you didn't.
Probably not.
You're not making everybody happy.
No, it's never.
But if you did make everybody happy, you weren't doing it right. I think it would be
exactly
a good way to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's anybody that's that's the platoon level. I think is the core level of the military. I think that's where most of us that here in the military that are here tonight or listening, that's where I think all of our biggest memories are from, is that your platoon, in the company, but like it's that pride. Those are the people that you are, you're there with every day. It's
right.
It's an important job, and the platoon leader job is an awesome job. So you
awesome.
became an XO.
Yes.
All right. So I got to ask this question: better job, platoon leader or XO?
Platoon leader every day.
I like being an XO though.
Oh, I hated it. No, because I was in an armored division, and I'm in. So I was XO in my company. We had drones and those SIGINT equipment that never worked, and like you had to coordinate with NSA to like operate it and all this other stuff, and like everything was always broken in 1st Armored Division in El Paso. So it was just like a nightmare. I just felt like I became a maintenance officer when I became the XO. That was
you learn logistics as an XO.
You do learn logistics.
You learn all the logistics. You learn how to deal with all kinds of different people. So it was a different job. Like being with the people. Yeah, it's definitely. I was fortunate to stay in the same company. So I was a platoon leader. Then I went to become an XO of the same company. So that I feel like that's why I loved it, because I was like, now I'm like, that was the culmination of the move. Yeah, like the move in there. I felt like that was like you were still around your guys. Right?
Yeah,
you could now you had to deal with like different people, which you were kind of like,
yeah.
But all I think about the XO job it was fun in a different way. I mean, there's definitely the camaraderie of being with troops in the platoon level. You can never, I think.
Right. That's probably what I miss the most.
I think everybody misses that. I wonder, we'd have to have like the squad level, that platoon level. That's where you just spend so much time with people, So XO, you do that for a little bit.
Yep.
Then
I decided to refrad. Honestly, I felt like at that time I wanted to be like more hands-on. I wanted to be doing the job, and the entire time I was in, I really wasn't doing intel. I was always facilitating, like, planning. Like, I guess I didn't understand the whole officer side when I got in, but I'm like handling maintenance all the time and, that sort of thing, training calendar, PowerPoint, that was my job. And I wanted to be more involved. And I decided that, I didn't think I wanted to stay. It wasn't for me. So I put my refrad packet in to leave. And at that time, the brigade was rotating to Korea, and the battalion commander decided that he was like, you're going to be the rear detachment XO because you're getting out in like 3 months. There's no reason to send you over. So that wasn't too bad. It was just making sure what needed to go over to Korea got there, and whatever was staying here did. The hardest part was honestly, there was a lot of soldiers that were just so apprehensive to go, and there was suicides. There was like a lot of DUIs. There was people just getting in trouble on purpose to just not have to go. Like they were just, and it honestly kind of blew my mind. I'm like, you're just going to Korea. Like it's it's not it's not even as bad as like what I thought like going to Kuwait would be. Like at least
Right.
you're like you have Seoul or whatever, and it's a big training rotation, and it's very frequent. Like the Army constantly rotates there. But I guess I couldn't understand it. So then I'm like trying to help, and then I was also assigned as the battalion. What is that? The family
Readiness group.
Yes.
His
Yes.
excitement about that.
So
Like,
I
I
had
can't think of a worse job than to be in charge of the BD. I mean, he's making it sound so like
it wasn't for me.
For generally for the detachment of people that can't go, or I mean, they can't go because they're like they're getting out of the military, or they can't go because they're hurt, or they can't go because now they've done something stupid.
Yes,
that they can't go. So like I think what Logan was trying to say is that, but to back what you said earlier is, I think putting in perspective of the time that this is happening is that a lot of these people, this wasn't just Korea like it was to you. This was, I'd already been to Iraq. I've already been to Afghanistan. I've already spent years away from my family. Why do you want to do that? Because I look at my time in the reserves. We were, my battalion commander was talking about involuntary mobilizing our reserve unit to go to Fort Sill. And I was adamantly against that. Like, are you fucking out of your mind? But if you would have said we're going to Afghanistan, Iraq, that would have been different. I was like, I'm not going to leave my civilian job and go up to Fort Sill.
Yeah.
I mean, but I can understand the mentality of the people that are like, I'm done. Like they've you were in a time when a lot of people have been doing a lot of stuff for a lot of years. And
kind of like we talked before, Fort Bliss is draining. Like it's for whatever reason, First Armored Division does like every year, every unit is doing, I think even the year we didn't deploy, it was 90 some days in the field.
Yeah.
Because of like, once you get that heavy armor out there, you're going to stay out there. It's, it's a heavy logistical job to move that kind of stuff. So like the training cycles were long. So even when they were home, they weren't home. Mm-hmm. And I think that's worse on somebody, like especially after they just rotated back from Kuwait. Less than a year and a half later, they're doing that like 90 some days in the field. Then you got to go to NTC. So then I think it's just like absolutely drained people. I know it was draining for me. I mean, they're just like, man, why are we out here? Because we weren't even an armor unit. There was days where we're just sitting there at the talk, like, all right.
I just want to go over to El Paso. It's so nice hanging out.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say it was draining because El Paso. El Paso. And then the beautiful city across
Juarez.
Juarez is another. I mean, such a nice place to go visit. I hear. I feel for you, man. That's So let's talk about that now because you were talking about getting ready to get out. I mean, well, you were talking about the FRG. You rolled your eyes. I hear about this. So the FRG group.
Yeah, that was just hard because like it was mostly spouses calling, upset with their significant others, either in Korea not contacting them or issues that are going on at home. There were some legitimate things that we helped with, and it was, I was happy to, like, so like someone had a new kid and they're struggling, like they need help like at home or something. We could take like a group of soldiers over there and help them with whatever they needed. And that was, that's rewarding.
Yeah, but you're like, I talked to your husband. He doesn't want to talk to you.
Yeah,
he called me
that was
37
part,
times
right?
today. Just give us a
You can only tell them they're in training so many times.
Just slip that you haven't talked to the husband. Like, I haven't been able to get a hold of him either. I don't know where he's at.
Exactly.
Or where she's at. I don't know what they're doing. But that's a different. Because I mean, for the spouses too. I mean, it's the same time. Like we're making light of it, but that was a tough time too as well. Because again, you're a spouse at Fort Sill at El Paso, and you're there, but your spouse isn't there with you. That's rough. And then hitting all these training things. I always wonder how the spouses do, because for the most part, once you get to NTC, you're kind of like, I'm at NTC, let's do this. Or if you go to like a rotation, you're like, we're doing it. Meanwhile, your family is stuck back at home and dealing with the real life stuff, and it's tough. I mean,
it is. Yeah. I absolutely, like, I don't want to seem unsympathetic to like spouses or something.
I'm trying to help you because you went FRG.
It just was not for me. Again, it's just like not what I expected when I went in, and wasn't what I was wanting to do. So that was just a personal thing of mine. It's like, it's absolutely a great thing. The military needs its spouses absolutely deserve that support and that help. It was just, I was at my wit's end as well. I was ready to go. Yeah. And here I am, like less than 3 months out, and I'm fielding this problem. Like I said, I had soldiers like getting DUIs on the daily. It seemed like wrecking into the post guard shacks and just
now that is going to get me out of going to Korea.
And it was just it just seemed like everything was stacking up. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's understandable. So we'll talk about that. So you're at 4 years, you're getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you have 4 years that you thought you were going to do in the military. It didn't happen.
No.
And then one of the things I think that interesting for you is that you also did that 4 years. I know you want to deploy. I think I talked to most of the veterans like you that didn't deploy. You're like, you feel like you missed out on something.
Yeah.
Do you still feel that way? Or
yeah.
have you...
Even when I was graduating, like at the Marshals Academy, was like when all that was going down in Afghanistan, when we were pulling out and everybody's like, oh man, I think we're going to go back. And then like a bunch of us were all veterans. We're like, well, we'll go back. Like I was willing, like if something, I still feel that way. Like I think if a major conflict kicked off tomorrow, I'm more than willing and then able to go back, and I would happily go back. I think that's just something in me. I don't know if it's like I feel like I owe that, or like I just owe it to myself, or what it is. But yeah, absolutely, I would.
Well, I would say it's an important time that we're talking about this, and we'll talk later about. But this is the stigma amongst veterans. You're a lot of veterans like you that a lot of people. I've noticed this when as the podcast gets going. When I'm approaching somebody to come on, they'll be like, "I never did anything. I never deployed," and that's absolutely not the case. I've said this before, and it's important that you to know as a veteran that didn't deploy is you shouldn't feel guilty. It's just the way the cards were dealt. I mean, you did your time, you did your service, and that's important. So I thank you for your service. I mean, you did something that a small percentage of people do, and it's a stigma that I think a lot of veterans are fighting. There's a lot of veterans that are out there that they feel like if they didn't deploy, they didn't do these things other people have done, that they didn't serve honorably or they didn't do their part, and that's absolute bullshit. That's one of the things you got to get out of there. I've said this before, like anybody that served in the military is my brother and sister forever.
I appreciate that.
Even if you crashed into the guard shack and the DUI. You're probably smarter than I am to get it out of it. But no, but that's one of the things, especially talking about your next stage of your life, what you're doing now, you're absolutely still serving your country in a different way. So, I tell you that from the bottom of my heart, let that go. If that's something that's in your mind, it's easier said than done. And anybody that's listening, if you didn't deploy, no one gives a fuck.
Honestly, to caveat off of that, I really appreciate you say that. And it always has bothered me. And when I met Larry, we went hunting together, and that was like a conversation, like sitting next to him and seeing like what he's obviously visibly been through.
Right.
And I didn't even know him that well. Like, it was like, man, like, don't count me in the same group as you. And he basically said the exact same thing you said to me. And it resonated. I've never even had that conversation with him, but it resonated with me. Like, to hear it from him meant the world to me. And I'm just like, man, like, if he's going to say that, then, you got to let it go, so. No,
I mean, you absolutely do. And everybody else that's out there too, is if you're not familiar with Larry was on, Larry stepped on an IED, lost both of his legs, part of his hand, and probably came minutes within losing his life. And I feel the same way when I see Larry. I always, when we came on and when he came back in the basement again, I size myself up and say, is my service the same as his? But I think he, like you've obviously said, and I said before, is, you have to get over that. His service was different. My service was different. Yours is different. And people that are listening, it's different. You just have to understand that. And I think anybody that's giving you shit about not doing that, you just tell them to go fuck themselves. That's the best way to put it. So, but that's an important thing. And I think that's really one of the stigmas one of the things that is plaguing veterans now. I mean, I didn't see it at the time, and when you were there, because I feel like when I was in there, it was full circle, op tempo, everyone was going. Like I just saw, it's crazy, but I was watching AGT, like some clip, and they had the All-American chorus on there from the 82nd Airborne Division, and I'm used to seeing every one of them wearing, like, having a combat patch. Yeah, and I watched that, and like there was only 5 or 6 people in the chorus that had the combat patch. I'm like, holy cow! And then it takes a second to go, like, holy shit, like, wow, we're not at war right now, so it kind of makes sense. And then those people that did, but Larry, I think if Larry told you that has meaning, and it's, anybody that tells you differently, not just you, but anybody that's listening, like I said, honestly, tell them to go fuck themselves, because it doesn't matter. It's, you served, and that's all that. Yeah, because even civilians are the same way. Like, civilians kind of gauge up too. Like, not to be like, they're like, oh, did you go to war? And you're like, no. They're like, oh, they're like, they roll your eyes like. And then the question comes where they're like, well, why didn't you join the military? Oh, I'm flat-footed. I was going to join, but this and that. And you're just like, oh my gosh, it's like, just stop.
Yeah, it's like that annoying, uncomfortable conversation. You're like, I don't want to get into this.
So I punch them in the throat. They always have a reason why they didn't join. Like, I'm colorblind.
I was going to, but
I didn't score high enough on my ASVAB or something like that.
I was going to punch a drill sergeant.
And you're giving me shit about like, but whatever. But no, that's important. I think we're, again, your service. Like we'll get into the next phase of your life. I think first we'll talk about the big box you brought.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's take a whiskey. You've been waiting on this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You sure you want to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into, just a quick story. Like me and my father-in-law got me into bourbon, and we started. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and he had quite the collection, and we lost him last year. And so he was always like, if we get these nice bottles, like you gotta like just drink it. Like everybody's always got to find like the perfect reason to open it. And like we hated that. We were just like, if you're with a good group of people, like open that thing up and enjoy it, because you just don't, like, and with him being gone, it's just like it's harder for me to drink bourbon. Like I like to be in this sort of environment where it's like people I appreciate being around and that sort of thing. But yeah, that was one that he was like, man, you got to have a cool event and take that one too. And I know he would appreciate it.
That's awesome. So. Well, I'm sure he's proud. We'll share it. It's a great bottle. So before we open it up, you can start giving it open. You want to do it? I'll give you the knife so you can fumble with it. Maybe finish stuff. But damn, this thing's heavy. I gotta start working out. I get like.
Could you imagine?
That almost was bad. Like, hey, I'm gonna have to get one of my bottles. We should have prepped this. This is like the biggest. Here, you're doing that.
Right.
I'll talk.
I got it.
It's yours anyways. That way, if you break it, I don't feel as bad. But no, we've had Angel's Envy on before, but this is kind of a little bit different breed. But Angel's Envy was founded in 2010 by Wes Henderson and an industry icon, Lincoln Henderson, who used to be at Woodford Reserve, and then was pretty known for Gentleman Jack as well. Before his passing in 2003, Lincoln worked to selecting some brands of whiskeys for Angel's Envy. Up until now, I think most of their stuff was still sourced. So they were the Angel's Envy whiskeys first appeared in 2001. Their core offerings that a lot of people know are just the Angel's Envy bourbon, and then what everybody goes crazy for is the Angel's Envy rye, which is aged in Caribbean rum casks. And they have a very, very bunch of special releases like this. So I think this one these started in 2012, I think is when this series started. These are special barrels. So like all the other stuff that's aged normal Angel's Envy barrels. But then what it is it's put into another cask, different casks. They do different stuff. And age them for anywhere from like 3 to 6 months. So this is the 2021 Angel's Envy cask strength. It's aged 6 years and then finished for another 3 to 6 months in a ruby port barrel made of French oak from Portugal. That's a lot of stuff to say in there. And it's 120.4 proof, and the mash bill is 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley. And these are all crazy. They come with the box is nuts. Yeah. It's everything's cool. So
that's happening.
But here's to your father-in-law. What was his name?
Tony Santoro.
Tony Santoro. That's a cool. That's
right?
Definitely. Yeah, Tony. Here's a Tony. I do hate on Angel's Envy a lot, but the cast strength series,
yeah,
it's legit.
Yeah, it's very good.
So thanks for sharing.
Now
what he's listening to is everybody in the background's like, give me the bottle. Like you're gonna see a hand come take it out of the way. They're gonna try it, but Tony would be proud. It's so good. Did you get this with Tony? Did you have it before?
Yeah. Okay. So when we got into it, so he owned a typical Italian man, owned a construction business, stone, stucco, drywall, that sort of thing. And when I got out of the Army, I actually came back and I was working for him until I went to the Marshals Academy. Like anything government, right? It's slow, and you're waiting on all your paperwork and background and this, that, and the other. And I was on a job site in Louisville. He's like, man, you gotta find stuff, like start looking around. And there was a liquor store, I don't know, half a block away from where we were at. And this guy had, cases of Blanton's and E.H. Taylor and everything else. And I called him. I was like, what do you want? And he's like, offer him cash for everything. And I literally was like, I felt like I was bootlegging. I came back with like 6 cases of bourbon. And he called the guy directly. And he's like, I'm going to do the exterior of your building for free if you call me every time you get this, and this. And that guy would call, and I would go down there, and I would bring it back.
I'm regretting not meeting your father. Your father
he was the man. He was the
man.
man.
I've been in bourbon a long time. I've heard a lot of stories, but I've never heard of like hey, I'm gonna remodel your liquor store.
Yeah.
Next year, but you're gonna hook me up. But
Yeah.
but here's a Tony. That's a great pour. The Angels Name stuff. These are great if you can get them on. They usually come out every year, a yearly release. So these are very special. And these are the crazy price point. I think there's a couple hundred.
Yeah.
250. A 250, 260. So not a cheap bottle, but very enjoyable, especially for the age. That's the thing. I always look at stuff as whiskey. The age is a little young for the price they're asking. So you decide the Army's not for you. I'm joking. We've gotten into that, but you did that. So you come back home to.
I do.
You and your wife come back, go to Xavier.
Yeah. We come back. My wife gets into nursing school at Xavier, and I'm in the hiring process with pretty much every 3-letter agency you can think of. I just threw the resume out there and was, waiting to see what would happen.
Yeah, I was going to ask. There you go. I think you guys check and see if we're.
Yeah, let me go on YouTube.
Sorry, this is what happens when you talk about the CIA. Apparently, this is like the thing that went down. So he didn't have a baby. His wife's not having the baby yet. We just had a power bump here.
False alarm.
False alarm. So we're back.
He's looking now.
You were talking about this. Never had this happen. This is crazy. You were talking about you came back to school, get your master's degree.
Yep.
You applied to a bunch of different organizations, all law enforcement. Or
Yeah, all law enforcement. So backtracking, my master's degrees were in criminal justice and political science, and I was always interested in law enforcement. And when I was in college, I'd actually interned with U.S. Marshals out in D.C. and with like a local sheriff's department as well. I had a very, I liked it. I knew that's where I wanted to get to eventually, just depending on how long I was going to be in the military. But if the military would have worked out, it could have been a career as well.
Right.
So I was waiting on all those applications, working for my father-in-law doing construction and doing my master's online, and my wife was in nursing school. And we were flipping a house and moved back. And once again, hunting opens all kinds of doors for me. When I was in that process, I was at a bow shop, and I met the chief of Southern Ohio for the U.S. Marshals, and he and I got to talking, and he said, "Do you want to stay in Ohio?" And obviously, of course, I just moved back with me and my wife, and he was like, "Well, I have one slot, so you can stay here if you want it." And just super blessed, and got lucky, right place, right time. And then that's within a year of in the hiring process, I got picked up, and that's when COVID hit. So my first year at the Marshals, I couldn't even go to the academy. I just had to go to the courthouse every day and report there because COVID kept shutting down FLETC, which is the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. So that was it. Year 2020.
I think you haven't had the best go at your career.
You just keep hitting some bumps.
I mean, maybe that's why we had a power pump here.
Right.
It might be like Charlie Brown with the black spot over here. No, but so you obviously decided with the U.S. Marshal, they decided to take you.
Yes, that's where I wanted to go. That was my first choice. Like I said, I did an internship with them out in DC. I loved it. I always describe the Marshals Service as like the Marine Corps of the federal law enforcement agencies. They're the smallest. I think there's less than 4,000 deputies nationwide, whereas like equivalent, I think there's close to 20,000 FBI agents. Right. So we have less people, and it's more of like a blue collar job. A lot of people don't realize like the Marshals Service arrests more people a year than all other federal agencies combined, and I think that's what I was looking for. Right, I wanted to be more of like hands on. I wanted to be doing the job, not really facilitating it. So, and like I said, I had great experience with them before, and that internship worked out for me because the Marshals Service is still, if you want to get in a hiring process, it's not posted online. Like you have to reach out to the Marshals Service, attend what is called an information session, and then they take your name down and that sort of thing. It's not something that gets posted on. You'll see it every time the Marshals Service posts something anywhere. It's like, how do I get this job? Like people like publicly always comment on it on like Facebook or something. You have to attend an information session. You have to reach out to a U.S. Marshal recruiter. You have to like make that step forward. And I like that. It was like you're showing interest. Right. You're pushing forward. So yeah, I ended up there.
So Marshals, the most famous movie Marshals, U.S. Marshals.
Yes.
Right. But elaborate more. You're talking about what is the actual job of the U.S. Marshal?
Yes.
So fugitive stuff like
So a lot of people don't realize this. The Marshal Service is the oldest law enforcement agency in the country, founded with the Judiciary Act in 1789. And they've had pretty much every job you can imagine. But currently, the Marshal Service is responsible, like you said, the bread and butter, what everybody knows the Marshal Service for is fugitives. There's think of it as like a federal sheriff's department. We handle all federal prisoners. So if any other federal agency arrests somebody, they've essentially come into our custody if they're remanded by the federal judges. We're in charge of protecting federal judges, whether it's district judges or Supreme Court judges. We're in charge of their protection. We do JPATs, which is the moving of federal prisoners to federal prisons. We do asset forfeiture. We handle witness protection, unlike all the FBI TV shows that you see. That's,
the FBI said we do that.
No, that's ours. We do witness protection. We have special operations that we handle, and what am I missing? Obviously, the court stuff. Like we're taking prisoners to and from court like every day. So
Deputy U.S. Marshal, your title now. Are you doing all those different things, or do you have certain jobs where are you doing a specific one of those?
So
things?
Our saying in the Marshal Service is like 94 districts, 94 ways. When I say districts, the Marshal Service is broken up into the federal districts. So where there are the federal districts are broken up for like district court, and you got so ours is Southern Ohio. Ohio's broken up into two. So there's the federal courthouse in Columbus, Dayton, and Cincinnati, and it's more of like a smaller district. So the deputies here pretty much have to do everything. I'm in like a 5-man office. So you are doing a little bit of everything. But if you go to DC, there is no sheriff's department. In DC, it is the marshals. So like you are assigned to court, and then or you're assigned to warrants, and they rotate. Some people get full time, like, and stay in certain aspects of it. But smaller districts, you're always kind of diving into a little bit of everything.
So now Marshal Service goes. Now, are you able to stay here in your whole career?
Yeah.
Area?
Yeah.
Is it like the military where you have to leave at a certain time?
No, that's one of the caveats that people love about the Marshal Service in particular. Is like I'm probably wrong. I know the FBI, the Secret Service, without a doubt, and maybe the DEA. You're going to move around, and it's like I think it's part of like the agreement of working with them. But the Marshal Service does not require you to move. If you want to promote, maybe something opens up somewhere, and you like it's called OPREFing, which is like PCSing. So yeah, I mean that's there. It's obviously always an option, but no, it's not a requirement.
That's a good deal. Like,
That's a
that's
great
that's
deal.
that's not bad. I mean,
Yeah.
you can do what you like. You can leave if you don't
Yeah.
like it or whatever. But so we talk about now you're doing that full time.
Mhm.
I mean, we got some stuff. I don't want you to break the podcast. I think you did already.
Yeah.
So, what you could talk about, like you have to have like some kind of like
Yeah.
cases you could talk about. Like, is there one that like
Yeah.
always sticks out to you? Like,
So there's a case. There's these two brothers, like really bad guy, like everything you imagine, guns, shootings, moving dope, that sort of thing. And we've been after him for a long time. Really couldn't tie down where they were. Had a good idea, like kind of figured out where they were, but it was in like a really not a police friendly area. Wasn't able to put like a pole cam in and anything like that, and any kind of surveillance to like really establish like yes, they're in that area or they're staying in that apartment. And so I used a ruse to try to get in there because they had food trucks on the corner, and I got in the chicken suit so then I could see them. But as you don't know, that's the beginning of the U.S. Marshals movie.
we had that plan on that. We
Yeah.
like, that sounds pretty good. Yeah. I think Josh was. We had to stop because Josh was like,
But no, I mean obviously we every day looks different right now.
that was well rehearsed.
Yeah.
I didn't know where you were gonna jump.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a chicken. So I'm like, so back to Marshall Service. Like also, so looking on there, looking for Marshall quotes because we have some coming. Your opinion, because I was researching this actual Marshall trading cards. The government created these like U.S. Marshal trading cards of famous U.S. Marshals,
Okay.
which I didn't know Frederick Douglass was a
Yeah.
U.S. Marshal. So, in your mind, most famous U.S. Marshal, and this one, what I read, there's one person that it always goes back to. But in your mind, who is the most famous?
That most people think of?
No, in your mind, who's the most famous U.S. Marshal? Like in your time working there, and who do you consider the most famous? Like
among marshals, I would say Bass Reeves.
Okay.
And then, but like amongst the public, Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, that's what that's one of the two. Wyatt Earp was they say it's the most.
Yeah, I mean Tombstone.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's like everything.
That's like Con Air.
Yeah.
Con Air. The federal marshal, the marshals weren't the great.
Yeah, Bass Reeves gets really pushed amongst like our community. He had the most arrests, like documented arrests, including his own son for murder. Brought his own son in and turned him in. So it's like a very big like integrity type of like lesson amongst deputies and that sort of thing. But yeah, everybody knows Wyatt Earp and Tombstone and all the famous quotes, right? So
I was shocked. I mean, the marshal card were interesting because it broke up. I didn't know Fred that was created. Some other people had no idea where marshals. But yeah, everybody knows. But his becoming U.S. Marshal wasn't the greatest.
No.
Great story of becoming one. It's like, okay, I'm going to become a U.S. Marshal and just bring down benefits on everybody. But that is interesting. That it's small. That's what one of the things I looked into before. Is a super small thing. So in your job right now, you're in a small district. You said you do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Now, because we already wrote.
Yes.
We already wrote Josh. He's been waiting for this. What's your favorite part of your job now? Please tell me it's not going to court and like that's one thing. Like, what do you?
That makes the spiders crawl. Honestly, so for us, we're fugitives. It has to be violent crime. So it's to me, it's always rewarding. There is a victim, right? So like, it's not and this is not a knock on like I don't want to write traffic tickets. I don't want to like do that sort of thing. So like knowing that there is like someone who is absolutely a danger to society and to the public, being able to find that person. Everybody thinks it's so simple, right? Like, oh, well, what's their driver's license? Like
Dude, I watch a lot of shows. It takes 40
yeah.
minutes. They solve it all.
Yeah,
The
they'll
crime,
figure it
it takes 42 minutes for a law serious for them to convict the person to get them out of it. But
Yeah, but fugitives, I get the most rewarding feeling out of that. Especially because the Marshals Service, again, one of the things I really like about the Marshals Service is we partner with state and local agencies. So we use our resources, our training to help clean up state and local warrants. And that's, again, it goes back to like why we arrest so many people, right? Because we're helping state and local agencies who may not have the resources. Like somebody commits a crime here in Columbus and he takes off to Miami, Florida. Like Columbus PD can reach out to Miami, Florida, but like it's just that much. We just have that resource, like our agencies everywhere. So like, and that's what we've done.
so how does that work? So, like you talk about Columbus is your area. There's like a few federal fugitive.
Yep.
He bolts to Miami. Are you involved in that, or you hand it off to the Miami office? Or?
So it can go either way. Like last week, a guy in my office had been working a case, and it was very extensive. It's still being prosecuted here in this county, so I can't like go into the details of how he found the guy. But he located him in Texas, and because he had put so much into it, he flew down there, like some Raylan Givens justified stuff. Like just went after him himself. Yeah. Well, he said he was very disappointed that none of the deputies had hats on down there. So, but they went down there.
Justified how this is bullshit.
So he went down himself because I mean he put a lot of work into that case,
right.
And he's an incredible investigator. He was able to locate him and apprehend him, and now he's being brought back. He'll be brought back here. But typically, like it's just quicker, right? Like if I get a lead that you are in Atlanta, I use our system and I send it off. Like this is what I have. Can you use your local whatever you got to kind of look into this, or go get him, and it's just that much faster.
So I know you can't talk about how you track down criminals. I don't know, it takes you guys 42 minutes on TV, but
yeah.
You gotta imagine that you're using some of the same things you use in the military. You got human intelligence, you got signal intelligence, you got you guys are doing the same thing that you were doing as in your military career, right? But hopefully this stuff works under
yeah. We're pretty good at it. I mean, the Marshals Service actually caught El Chapo twice. It's he got out. I don't know if you saw him. He's in now. He's not out now, but he did get out before. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what we're known for, and we have awesome capabilities. But I mean, we're good with working with a bunch of different agencies, and then obviously like other federal agencies have the same type of resources and stuff like that. And like there's a lot of task forces that are multiple agencies, and they come together, and like it's kind of like JSOC in the military, right? So you just have all these like different state and local and federal agencies that work together and use their resources and training and stuff like that to like come together on this stuff. But our bread and butter is always like finding the person, essentially. So, and I like that. Like I'm not building a case on you. Like my job is like, again, I'm a avid hunter, and that's what I feel like I'm doing. Like I'm just like I gotta find a person.
I mean, that's an honest assessment of it. I mean, there's a lot of things that that there was a cop that there's people that enjoy building the case on the person. You're just the guys. Like you're not. I got your name now.
Yep.
It's my job to find you and bring you to justice. That does get all like old school. That gets a wide herb on you too.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. I know you're like.
Yeah, and it's an investigation within itself, right? It's a way to find people, and it's not as simple as what some people think. Like some people in the court are, well, why don't you just go to the address he gave the court? And it's like, oh yeah, if I didn't think of that one, thank you.
I'm gonna go right there. So we're talking about that. We obviously can't talk about tactics and equipment, all the kind of stuff here. Other than the chicken soup. But I feel like today, if you're committing a crime today and you're hiding today, the fugitive, you got to be pretty good at it because it's pretty easy to find them in different ways, right?
Yeah. I would say, I don't want to give away the way I would say you wouldn't, but
I mean, we can talk about that off camera, but
yeah, I mean,
well, there's a lot of people talk about, like, I mean, I look. What I'm saying is, I look if you go back, like, I watch a lot of documentaries. You like look at Ted Bundy. I feel like Ted Bundy would not be able to do that today in 2023.
No,
He could have done it. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, that's what I'm saying. If you're a fugitive,
yeah, I mean, it's tough. You got to be pretty savvy. Yeah.
So
Most of the time, when you see like people who've been on the run for a very long time, it's like from a crime years prior to now, and they've assumed like new identities and things like that. But like today, if you were going to commit one, like you got to be pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of way smarter, better investigators. Like that guy that I just told you went to Texas. I look at him as like a mentor. He is just a phenomenal investigator. He actually solved a murder out of Springfield that was cold for 9 years. Found the guy living under a false identity in a different state and got him back. And, just stuff that like takes a lot of digging, right? And it's like I said, it's its own art form. It's its own investigation form. Like a lot of people think it's just door kicking, which we love. We pride in that because we're like the agency that's like, yes, I want to put the cuffs on the guy.
Joe's over there going. Joe's like,
yeah, like everybody likes to be like, that's what you think of, like, right? Like, oh, I'm going to the door, I'm going in, and I'm putting the cuffs on him. But there's a lot of legwork that goes to that, and that's honestly to me like more of the rewarding side. Like when you get it right, you're like, yep, I got you, I found you. So there are people that are not so good at it.
It's also honestly a story about someone that's like just the worst at trying to evade. I mean, I feel like there's got you got to be really good if you're going to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got, I mean, no one's that good. I mean, I feel like there's people that are just stupid. Like I'm going to bowl.
I mean, you gotta have serious means, right? Like to be like cash to just get out of here, to be like really.
What's your amount of cash you should have on hand if you want to?
I would say, I mean, like,
how much cash did you have if you didn't want to disappear?
I would say like a lot of people, like, I want to say like not good at it, but like you think of like career criminals, right? Like it's not like they have a mortgage and a house and their name and like everything like that. So it's like you really have to start digging into like where these people are. But I think the funniest thing I'd say when I say think of like bad at it is where they hide, like within a home. I've seen like the craziest things. Like I found people in Tupperware. I've found people like in laundry baskets, washing machines.
Wait, you said Tupperware?
Yeah, like a box. Like, and they just stuff them in there, and then they'll stuff boxes on top of it, and then put them in the back of the closet. I've had people like under couches, and then they're laying on the couch like, oh man, I'm not getting up, I don't feel good, I'm sick, and they're just laying on top of their friend. My favorite are the classics like children, like I'm gonna hide in the closet or under the bed. Like at least be creative.
Yeah, it's like a hide and seek. It
is.
Right? I mean,
it's trap doors in houses. I've seen that multiple times where they like have actual like hiding spots within houses that they've like built.
I moved down there and
yep.
The Tupperware. I mean, like a container. I mean, you have a small.
Yeah, it was impressive. It was impressive.
At some point, I think you're gonna like a couple eyes you want to get.
Like,
because you're like,
it was a female. She was like bent like that, and just like I mean, her like face was in her thigh. Like just straight down. I don't know how long she was in there. I mean, we've been searching the house for like 30 minutes. So I mean, that's impressive. So, but then like her friend that took other ones and stacked it on top of that one. Just saying, but that's the whole point of like our warrant, right? Like I'm looking anywhere a body can hide, and every time I see something like this, I'm like I can articulate. Like I've seen people in that. So, yeah, it's
like that cabinet you could fit in there.
Yeah.
So we fit in that barrel.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people get in like
Larry can fit in the barrel. I mean, it's like Larry's
Larry put a leg in one room and like
you walk in and one of his legs will be
yeah.
Like trying to pull off like
yeah, it's all
his legs were like all super technology though. They would tell him.
Yeah,
I guess get his app and would tell you that he left it.
Yeah.
He was here last time and he tilted it upside down. He's like, oh, my leg is so man upside down. It's like good for the work. You'd have to but I just have to feel like in today's world it would be the people it's easy to get the people that are dumb, right? So
sure.
Probably have never changed, but I feel like the people are if they're evading with like social media cameras, they have a lot of money, a lot of help, right?
Yep.
So do you see that a lot with people?
Yeah, and then on the opposite end, like homeless people are hard to find.
Yeah.
They don't their head in the same place, and they don't have technology, they don't have jobs or whatever, like associates to family or friends or whatever, so they can be very difficult to find. So it can be one end or the other. So yeah, it's just depends on the investigator too. How much effort are you putting into it, and trying to find these people. Like if you think it's just going to be last known address and not there, and you're like, well, I don't know. Like you can just give up. But yeah, it's a cat and mouse game of like kind of. And I always respect. I think our agency gets a lot of respect even from like fugitives. They understand. Like I didn't build that case against you, but you got a warrant, and they understand that. And some people, they can get like bent out of shape. Like like, oh, why were you hiding? It's like if that bothers you. Like sometimes I have one not that long ago. We had gotten a tip that the local agency tried to go in, and they supposedly had built like a manhole in his basement, like in the foundation of the house. And we went to go to the basement. It was flooded with sewage water, like probably like to your shins. And it was like, does he win this time, or do I go down here?
Like we're coming back in a week.
So we went down, and you see this hole, and it's like probably 5-6 feet off the ground, and there's a blanket right there by the hole. So stick a camera and a light in there, and you just move it around. You pull it back out. You watch the footage. He's in there butt naked, and you're like, come on, get out of there! Like, let's go. He starts like throwing rocks at us, and like won't come out of the hole. So you had to like, and then it just like gets into that game.
He's in
like,
raw sewage though. He's
in like concrete. He went through the raw sewage to get into like the foundation of the house, and he's like underneath the foundation of the house, like in the ground.
He's so concrete.
But there was nowhere for him to go, but he's like throwing rocks at us every time we would like try to like poke our head in the wind. So little gas, and that usually convinces people that they don't want to stay there.
Yeah,
it's not fun.
Yeah.
But it was like coming back out of the hall. So
I
like,
watch some movies, man. You wet the rag, you put it on there, you're good to go. All the movies when you see that. Anytime you need gas, that's not a good thing.
no, it's not.
I was over there like flashing by no.
So I mean, he came out, but I was just like that. The level people are willing to go, and that's what does make it
scary.
Yeah, and like like we're laughing and joking and everything. Like people have hidden in some funny places and things like that. But like I said, it has to be a violent crime. This morning we got a murder suspect. He actually allegedly, murdered like an 82-year-old man. So like to use that kind of violence on like an elderly person is like extremely like this guy is obviously not stable. Like he.
Right.
So you always have to treat them all the same, right? Like if it can go wrong, it will go wrong, right? So you have to obviously always be vigilant to the fact that like this could go very bad. Like somebody like that knows that he's going to jail for a very long time, and then some of these offenders that may be a lower end, like an assault or something, but they're a habitual offender. And
Right.
It's like man, I'm going away for a while on this one, and they don't want to go back. So it's like, what are they willing to do to not? So yeah, it's obviously dangerous. Like every time you go into a house or whatever, you like, we like try to make light of it, right? Like the whole dark humor thing of things. It's like, wow, like you took it to the far end of like being willing to hide or run, but yeah, there's obviously
What's the part? I mean, like I don't say respect, but there's part like yeah, you're right. This person is. They know that, like you're coming from. They're not.
Yeah.
They know what they've done. Most likely, they know what the consequences are, and they're gonna do everything they can to get out of it. But yeah, that is a scary thing. Of like you said before, it's a different thing. And, not that every traffic stop is easy, but like
right.
When you're going after someone, you're going after someone that is capable of doing some really awful things.
Yeah. You probably saw it in the news a couple weeks ago. It was a case that I've been working, but I was on vacation, and I developed where I thought he was, and passed it on to the guys that were still here, and that turned into a 9-hour hostage situation. He went into a adjacent apartment, and there was an elderly man in there, and he wouldn't let him leave.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah. And that sort of thing just happened so fast, and so it ended up being like 3 or 4 SWAT teams on site and that sort of thing. So, like, yes, you can go, and it's like as easy as like, hey, come on, like, come to the door, like, let's get this taken care of, and they come out, no problems, come to custody, take them to jail, and get it worked out. And that's how I would say most every task force I've ever worked with works that way, right? Like if you're willing to just walk out of the door, I don't want to come into the house. I don't want to make things worse. And like I'm going to give you, if you want to act like an adult, we'll treat you like an adult. And if you need to get your clothes or things like that, like we're obviously going to let you do that. We're not here to make things worse. We want to do it as safely as possible, like everybody else. But when you choose to hide or like you start throwing rocks at me or screaming obscenities or whatever,
You're gonna guess.
yeah, like it just like you ultimately have that control of how you want that to go. If you acknowledge me at the door and say I'm coming, and you walk out and put your hands behind your back, like you get treated with the most respect. It's not. It's like I said, I don't have any dog in that fight of this investigation or what goes on with your case. I'm not prosecuting you, but you have an active warrant, and it just needs to be taken care of.
So that mindset is different. Like I'm going to challenge this. You work in task force, so you could be working with Columbus Police Department, right, and the Sheriff's Department, right?
Yep.
So those you do have the people that are there. You're helping them find Chain Miller. They built the case. These guys are emotionally invested. They're charged up. Do you feel like some of those agencies are like, fuck this guy, we're not giving a chance to do this. Let's, before they throw rocks at us, let's go in there like.
I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen. I've never personally seen it. I wouldn't stand for it. Like if you partner with our task force, like the Marshall Task Force, you're essentially giving that authority for us to find the person. Usually, the detective that builds the case is not going to be on the fugitive team. Like the fugitive team is building the fugitive case to find the fugitive, but like the detective who, excuse me, who charged you with murder or trafficking or whatever it was, he or she is not typically going to be the one. If it gets to a fugitive point where they couldn't find you and they need you arrested, or they think you're dangerous and they want a fugitive team to get you, they're not typically going to be there. But have I seen people get emotional because things got out of hand? Sure, absolutely. Like, people are humans, right? Like, we're humans just like everybody else, and it can. But like, you gotta remember, like, that's why you're on this side. You gotta remain professional, and you can't let your emotions get the better of you. It's just like anything. But yeah, I wouldn't say that it doesn't happen. No, I don't see it.
Yeah, I would say like. So the moral of the story is, if you knock on the door, they find you, just come out. Don't throw rocks.
Yes. Yeah. If you're caught, you're caught, right?
Kind of find out. Is a good way to do that, I think. But you ready? You took a lot in there. You took a huge hit of it.
That was pretty good.
That's good. Yeah, I went through pretty quick. I'm acting like I took a small thing, but we'll keep going. And so, obviously, talk a couple times about hunting. Hunting is important to you. You met Larry. You guys are like tight from hunting. How long have you been hunting? Like, I mean, so you said, what did you call it? You were into all of, I think I didn't write it down, but you said all your hobbies were typical
veteran dudes. Stuff,
which includes fitness. Yeah, I'm into fitness. That's how I used to be. Shooting, bourbon, and my family. That's kind of like ties into what it is. I mean, I've never been hunting, actually. Like, that's what's up, Larry. Afterwards, it's like, I've never been hunting, but if you've seen the pictures I posted and what you sent, hunting's a huge part of your life. Yeah, always been.
More so like as I got out of the military. Like I did it growing up. I didn't have I had to hunt like public land or like have someone take me. My dad wasn't like a big hunter, but I always like wanted to do it. So when I could go, I would go. And then when I got into the military and then got out of the military, again, Tony was an avid. Tony was an avid hunter, and his family was. Actually, growing up, his dad was the largest trapper in the Midwest. Like in the 70s, he was making like $50,000 and $60,000 on skins, like selling for like just trapping animals. Yes. Yeah. He also owned a construction business, but that was like his side.
Let's get somebody in the books now.
So like he grew up doing it, and then he became like my mentor as I got with my wife, and taught me a lot. And I still hunt his property that my mother-in-law lives on still today. But yeah, I got more and more. I got more connected to it, and I enjoyed it more when I got out. I don't know if it was like the peace or like just the serenity of being by myself, or like the challenge of it. Probably all of it. But yeah, it's definitely like the thing that when I need like my me time like to decompress and go. And my wife knows that. Like being in this job, like it's like a lot of negativity all the time. Like you're reading what happens to people, you're talking to victims, you're seeing people, even the like suspects or whatever, like they're going away from a long time, you're hearing these things in court, and it can be like draining. And you're just like, man, it's a lot of negativity all the time. So that's definitely my thing that I go to. Like that, if I don't want to talk about work or something, like I'll talk about hunting all day, and it like never bothers me. So yeah, I met Larry through that. You know, meet a lot of really good people through that, and Larry and I have connected, pretty bonded over that, and then obviously through like military service and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, Larry would probably say the same thing. There's something about it that I think brings that like camaraderie, especially amongst veterans. Like you find that within that like a hunt camps or like going out together and setting that stuff up, and like you kind of have like a mission and a purpose there, and like you want to like go together, and it you definitely find that in hunting. So yeah,
I mean, it's in any event. Like I just asked about that because it's anything. I think with veterans, we talk about the part about suicide is you have to find where you get your connection, and the connection doesn't have to be with veterans all the time. It has to be the something that you feel that purpose, right? You feel, you have fun, you're doing something, and it is always good to be able to turn everything off.
Yeah.
I just can't get over like people. Some people like I see pictures like you, that, like Larry says pictures. Like I just know friends that like they've been hunting for 15 years, and I'm like, how did your hunt go this week? And they're like, we didn't, like I know for 5 years. I'm like, I feel like you just go out to the hunt site for 4 or 5 days and just drink and sleep. And then one guy was like, that's fine. I mean, I'm in my, no one's bothering me, but which is great. So
yeah.
Hunting, I saw some pictures of turkey, deer.
Yeah.
What's your
memorable
deer? And we have a special guest here. She's looking at me like mortified. I was like, oh my god.
Yes.
He is talking about hunting. Yes. But what would be your most satisfying kill?
So up until I don't know, what's that, 5-6 years ago, I never really killed like what I would say was like a trophy size buck, one that was worth like getting mounted or something like that. It was the year that I moved back to and I was with my wife, and my father-in-law was really teaching me a lot about deer hunting. And due to his health, he wasn't able to hunt anymore, so he really kind of like he was super passionate about like trying to like live through me to like do it and like get me out there. And I killed the first deer I ever had mounted. It was a big buck, and like he came out there that day, and like we skinned it together, took it to the butcher shop. He paid to have it mounted for me. Like he's like, I want to give back to you. Like, and it just meant a lot to me. Like that one is always going to be. And then honestly, this year I had a pretty rough season, and
Katie's like, good.
I
just like him. I can't.
Yeah.
Deer.
I lost 2 of them, and I just wasn't able to recover them. I like put days into like tracking them and trying to find them, and it was like I don't like that. I don't like.
You like tracking humans, but not deer though.
Well, I don't like injuring an animal and then not finding or killing something and not like
that's
actually. Like I don't believe in that. I don't believe in like just killing for sport. Like if you're not going to eat it, don't kill it.
That man eater. That's the
meat eater.
Meat eater. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I honestly never. But no, but he does have. It's a TV show, whatever. But he does have a lot of those things he talks about. Is an important thing of like everything that I think is so cool. What they harvest, they eat, and he talks about that a lot. About I think there's one time that he did the same thing, and it was the guy was like distraught about it. And it's like most people go. Hunters don't care. Like, I think you guys absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely eats me up. I don't like it. I feel like I failed, and then I feel like you're feeling that animal too, like the animal deserved or whatever. Yeah, so I was having a rough season, and then myself and the neighbor who built their properties with Tony, my father-in-law, they built those properties together, and they were best friends growing up. We both killed one the same morning, and like got them together. So like those two meant a lot too, and it was just. Like to be together in that moment, it was kind of like like without him, because he was always there with both of us. So yeah, both of those were absolutely changing.
And hunting is like I feel like hunting is a lot like the military. Like we talk about people. It's like what I mean, not the hunting part of that, the passing on of like the traditions and the things that you're doing. I think that we talk about people like most of the people we talk about hunting. It's very rare that someone just like decides at 40 years old to start hunting. They do, but they don't have those same things when I talk people. They're like,
Right.
it's something they've been doing for such a long time, and there's traditions and someone that's taught them the way to do it, that mentorship, and that like that
Yeah, absolutely.
like that someone like pushed them in and you saw the right way to do it. I think there's like obviously anything you do, there's a right way to do it. There's a right way to drink, right? Responsibly, there's a wrong way to drink. I mean, there's people obviously that are out hunting that don't give a shit. They just want to,
Yeah, it's like anything, right? Like there's always bad apples, and take some the wrong way. But yeah, I think hunting is absolutely that for a lot of people. Like I said, my dad, like we would bird hunt, but like he wasn't like a huge hunter. Like we would go out sometimes. But a lot of people do grow up and they like pass that on. And Tony was definitely that for me in terms of that. And then I get that connection with Larry. I learned a lot from Larry, and I get that from everybody. Like I hunt with, I feel like you give and take things from each other, and it's always like a.
Larry did say he was a 10-time better shot.
He probably is.
He said that there's a chance. He's like, he didn't even. He's like, I know that. No, but that's good. So, is deer your favorite?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I would say so. I think it's just like there's just a lot of factors to it, like to get it right and to like actually succeed in it. I enjoy like the camaraderie of like duck hunting. Like you get in a blind and you're drinking coffee and you're sitting next to Larry bullshitting and telling stories, and then here they come in and you blast them and you just have a good time. But
I say I've never been hunting, but I've never hunted. I went duck hunting with a friend of mine because I didn't have a license.
Okay.
And we went at like crack of the dawn, like 3 a.m, and lay all this stuff out. And there was 3 of them, and they were. And what's crazy, I thought like I'm gonna go with them because when push comes to shove, someone's gonna let me shoot these ducks, right?
Yeah.
These 3 guys are like, you don't have a license to do this. You didn't do it. You're not doing it. And it was just like like we're out there like I'm like, what are we doing? And it was actually watching. It was like total chaos. But every time I was like, let me shoot one. They're like, no. But I think hunters get a little bit. I really thought one of them would say it doesn't matter. And like my friend Dan was like, dude, you're not doing that. Like you're not.
But that's like the worst.
I trust you to shoot that, right? But you don't have a license, and we're not worth it.
What's funny is that's the worst one to probably do because that's federally protected. So that's a federal crime.
Then you'll be looking for me. You'll be looking for me now.
Yeah.
When I know Logan be busted in 20-some years later. You remember that mallard duck you killed
live
in Missouri? They came back and talked. We know you did it.
Yeah.
So you got your high-paced career going on now, and so you're kind of interesting with guests. I think you're the only one that has one on the way, or didn't already like. I think you're the only one that doesn't have kids. Maybe no, except Austin, who was super young. But so you got a little girl on the way.
Yes.
You're in a high-paced, dangerous job.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you? Is it anything changed in your mindset of like?
No, I just don't think you can let it. Like my wife and I, like she knew that's what I wanted to do, and she's the most supportive person ever. She knows there's still things I want to pursue within the job, like even more so into the fugitive or even the special operations side of the Marshals house. Those are like goals and aspirations that I have. She gets mad when I volunteer to like do all the overseas stuff and gone for a few days, but she gets over it sometimes.
I get over it.
Yeah.
She may, but what I'm trying to prep you for is like baby girl.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay. We'll see, right?
I guess I'm trying to prep you. Like, I think part of this podcast is to learn experience from other people. Like you talked about when it gets real, it's going to get real soon. You have a little girl in your life. It changes everything. Until they get like 14, then they can, they can be not. No, your life changes. It becomes real of like what you're doing and the consequences of your action, not only the job, but just a
yeah, it definitely crosses my mind. Yeah. And I like to think I don't want ever to feel like I was being apprehensive, like and like use that as like I don't want to say an excuse, like oh well, I got a kid now, I can't. I know what I signed up for, and I like to do it. And there's guys that do it every day that have kids, and they have great family lives. And there are people who don't. I'm not going to sit there and say like cops I think have the highest divorce rate out of every occupation there is in the United States. So I think that's on you. Like you have to be that man like that has to balance his faith, his family, and his career. I'm not married to the job. I'll never put it away my family. I've always felt that way. And if I felt that I was slipping and I wasn't where I wanted to be as a man or a father or a husband, then I need to make that decision internally and pursue what needs to be done to get it done. And hopefully I just can always keep that mindset and, trust my wife's vision on that too. If she thinks that obviously she's got we're in a partnership, and if she thinks that maybe you need to back off from that, and that's always an option too, right? And that's another thing I truly like about this job is if you need a break, if you don't want to be out there, I know a guy in DC that got shot recently, and he's just still not ready to go back to the street, but he works court. He's fine. Nobody's pushing him back out there. He's still recovering from that, and he's honest with himself, and he's honest with the guys, and he's a great guy. He's a great investigator. He's a great operator. He's an SRT, a special response guy out there, and that sort of thing. So it's you just have to make that decision within yourself and be honest with yourself, really, and on how to handle that. So
that's a tough decision for a lot of us, and a lot of us make the wrong decision sometimes. It's it's easy to the profession that you're in now, and the military profession and law enforcement, which we've had people on, and it's part of it's the adrenaline. There's that part that we enjoy, that fun part of that adrenaline thing we did. But then when you think about it now, it's not just you that's going to suffer; it's someone else. It definitely changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep grounding, and
I think I'll stop and think about things a little more. I'm not going to be the first one to raise my hand to crawl in the attic or whatever.
I don't want to go to the rock right now.
So maybe I'll hey, you go first. So.
I'm going to do the Tupperware container because I feel like someone's in there. I just can't get over the Tupperware thing.
That one's pretty good one.
I just can't get over that. That's I feel like there's the couch thing. That's a good one.
The most impressive one to me was the washer. So he was in a washing machine that was halfway full of bleach water, and they put clothes on top of them. He was in there for 45 minutes, and we were just tearing this place apart. I know he's in here, and it just couldn't figure it out. And somebody went to move the washer to see if there was something behind it. Man, that's heavy. And they're
oh.
So he was in there so long he couldn't get out. We had to physically pull him out. His legs were asleep, and he was pretty sure he was high off.
Is he thankful? Or was he thankful when you got him out?
No. He was not very nice. So.
All kinds of technical difficulties going on. Got the PC running low. But are you ready for you're still? We don't have the glass, so we'll talk about the second featured whiskey. We're going to bump it up a little bit. We're going to have a little bit of Elijah Craig happiness.
Yes,
big Elijah Craig fan. Elijah Craig barrel proof. Are you a big fan of Elijah Craig? Or?
I do enjoy it.
So we're gonna go old school here. We haven't even recorded yet. We're gonna get there. Chad is trying to get here. Chill. We're getting there. So no, but I want this. I want it's always fun to try to pair some stuff up with you. I was gonna make fun of you a little bit. He said Angels that we can bring in that was huge cast strength, and then he does what all people in the bourbon community. He's like, I have to tell you, Jay, I really like Lance. Started laughing about the whole Lance thing, and Lance is huge. But I have tons of Lance out here. It's fine. But I'm glad you didn't bring that in because I would have to make fun of you then. But so we're gonna go with Elijah Craig. We're gonna go old school here too. You've gone a little bit older. 2021. This one's been open in a while, but we're gonna go with the B or the A119. So Elijah Craig, if you don't know, is part of the Heaven Hill family. It's actually the largest private-owned operating distillery in the United States. It was founded in 1935 in Bardstown, Kentucky. It's the 7th largest alcohol supplier in the United States and the 2nd largest holder of bourbon whiskey inventory in the world. And again, it's the last family-run and owned and operated producer of distilled spirits in the United States. Pretty cool. If you haven't been down there, they remodeled it. We're going to be there Wednesday. I'm excited. Looking at Joe. He hasn't gone there, but we're going to be down there. Chad was supposed to come, but he's not coming. But we'll be down there Wednesday. I can't wait. Beautiful campus. You got to go down there and check it out. I'm getting all fidgety over here. No, but but Heaven Hill, again, these batches, they started in March of 2003. There's 3 batches each year. We've talked about this on the podcast before. There's some private barrels that are going right now, but their general release, each batch is released in January, May, and September of each year. And they give them, A1, B5, and C9. So this one is A119. So this is January of 2019. You're still in the military then?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like, no, yeah, I was. I got out April.
When you said your grandfather was in Vietnam, you made me feel really ill, but no, I'm kidding. But we're having this, like my dad was in Vietnam. I'm old. But this is batch A119. It's age 12 years. And this has just changed recently. I'm not exactly sure, but some of the new batches that are coming out, I think in 2023 are not 12 years. They're starting to get younger. But this is 135.2 proof. This is a heavy hitter. Mash bill like all Heaven Hill products, 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% malted barley, and not finished. Because you brought in a finished product. I'm not a huge fan of finished, but Angel's Envy, always good. But open it up. I think it's this one here. Help yourself.
Thank you, sir.
So now you got the baby on the way while you're pouring.
Yes.
He's really, I mean, are you like, what's your feelings as a new dad? I remember those days. Like, what do you like? Are you waiting for your phone to vibrate? Are you nervous? Like, what's your
Well,
thoughts
I'm
on
really hoping she holds off. I have to go to Atlanta for work for the first week of August, so I'm like, just hold on, and then. But I mean, I'm under the understanding that I will jump on a plane or grab a car real quick and haul my ass back here. But I don't know. I think about it all the time, but then at the same time, I was actually having this conversation with Larry on the way up. I'm like, I don't know if it's hit me yet. I don't know if it's going to be the moment of like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast where like I'm actually holding her and I'm like, oh, it's real. But I'm expecting for it. I'm prepared for it. Like I've done all the things to like, make sure that like I'm not, unprepared. I don't have bottles or whatever at the house sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, and my wife's awesome. I give her a lot of credit. She's a pediatric nurse at, I'm not going to give away where she works. Yeah. So she's a pediatric nurse. Both of our moms are still around and like very involved in our lives. And like my mom watches my brother's kids now all the time. And like, so I know I just have like a really good support system. So I guess maybe I'm just not as worried or stressed about it. And like, I'm in a good position. Like I have a steady job. My wife has a steady job. And like, it makes the stress of it a little less than what I would say, like some people go through, like as they're having kids. Like obviously this is a huge life changer and it's going to impact my life in every way imaginable. But I guess I feel prepared and we've been trying for a long time. It was kind of like unexpected. We were at the point where we weren't sure it was going to happen. Right. So it's just like, we're just excited. So it's that was probably the best part of it. It's just like, oh, it just ended up happening for us. Like we didn't end up having to like go the advanced route of, like the insemination type things and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm just excited. I'm ready for it to happen and we'll go from there.
Well, let's get personal because that's what the idea of the podcast is to talk about vulnerability. So, we've met before. We talked a lot. I'm super excited you came on. So I've just seen some things as like you've been talking. So military career didn't go out great. You had a great relationship with your father-in-law passed away. Mm-hmm. You struggle with having a baby.
Yeah.
How do you stay positive? Like what's your magic pill, or are you not being positive? Like I've heard some stuff that's like, like if you're listening and you listen to this, like there's a lot of great things going on, but you haven't been dealt a great hand. I mean, you didn't, the military didn't pan out how you thought it would, right?
Yeah. So I would answer that like I still consider myself extremely fortunate, extremely blessed. Like especially like I see these things every day. I go into these homes of like kids that I've been in places that I just can't imagine like having to like grow up in that. And I'm like, man, what am I complaining about? It could be much worse. I don't have to struggle with certain things. Like everybody gets something thrown at them in life, right? And you just deal with it. You have to choose how you're going to handle that. Like, did this go the way I wanted it to? No. Do I dwell on that and let that like shape me or define me and I complain about it? No. Do I complain like everybody? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's a human being that can say that they don't bitch and complain about something that bothers them or gets to them. But like I've had my moments. I've had my moments where I was like struggling or just not in a good place. And in fact, this week I had a conversation with my wife because things have been pretty rough at work in terms of like just how things are going, like things I've been going through. Not like technically like what like I'm not. It's not like my job. Like I'm not promoting or something like that. It's just like I feel like I've been like a lot has been happening. Like we did a huge operation that was like multiple teams running for weeks, and I was running one of them. And like our team alone closed 6 homicide warrants and countless others. I think that we finished with like 62 arrests in 2 weeks. And it's just a lot. And like, you got people, there are people that are just very negative about everything. And then you got like, obviously the victims in the situation or the subject in the situation. And then like, you can fall victim to that. And like, you find yourself being very negative. And I told my wife, I was like, I just feel like I'm complaining about things that are out of my control and I don't like it. And I need to like reshift my focus to like, what can I control? What can I be positive about? What are the blessings I can count? Like I'm a big proponent of faith. Like I believe in God. I've always believed in God. And I find a lot of solitude in that. I find a lot in my family and my wife. She's a great partner. And, I have friends like, sorry, I hit the mic again.
You're not even close to the record. I think it's like 12, 13. We got to get a ticker. I'm gonna get a ticker like like a pitch count.
Yeah,
no, it's fine.
But I have friends, like friends like Larry, and I just call him, and it's like you just talk about like your hobbies, like hunting or whatever, and all the things that I could say that went wrong or didn't go the way I wanted to, 100 things went right for me. I'm extremely fortunate. I'm extremely blessed. I have no complaints in my life. I feel like I go through normal things that people go through and like things go wrong and like I've suffered loss or not gotten my way and things like that. But like, who hasn't? Like, are you going to let that, keep you down? Or are you just going to like, all right, well, what do I got to do to get better? What do I got to do to move forward? And that's like, it's a mindset to me. And that's how I just kind of look at it. And if I catch myself being super negative, I get really upset with myself and I'm like, quit being a bitch and like get over it. You just got to like find that sometimes and like remind yourself like you are extremely fortunate.
Yeah.
And that's just like
that's hard to do. There's a lot of things that like I think it's one of the things that I asked that question. I'm gonna get more aggressive as we go along with episodes. I've been looking at some stuff here but that's key is like a lot of things to look at. It is like you have to find out what's making you happy. And I think you have one of the greatest things that's ever gonna give you a reason to be positive. You got a little girl that's on the way.
Yeah.
Like the first time you hold her, it's going to change your world. I'm so glad I didn't have daughters. Like I can't even imagine. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like the biggest. I'm hoping for all granddaughters. I think my
That's
boys
funny.
are to be the greatest thing to be all like sweet and stuff. I'm like, but no, that's a great mindset because because it's one of the reasons why we started the whole, to interview anybody. Like, you were reluctant. I think when you first came on, you came with Larry. I have a lot of people that, that whole comes back to the whole veteran saying, what have I done? Like, I can't even think about too, like you're kicking indoors, like you're doing, like I said earlier, you're doing your job and you just have to, you haven't been dealt the greatest hand. No one has, right? Like, right. I don't know anybody who has gotten like the perfect hand dealt to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's, I think the important thing, especially with veterans, is a lot of us, I don't understand why we do it. I don't know why we think that we can't look at the good parts of what we have, the family,
yeah, absolutely.
And the friends, the hobbies or whatever, that's important. So it's good to keep but you're going to get the ultimate grounding tool. I think is
little girl.
The little girl is going to change it all for you. You're going to be like, I'm done with this. I don't want to go to Atlanta. I want to hang out with my daughter. But that's crazy. So you talked about family. Family's huge for you. Mm-hmm. I always try to look. I'm trying to get better and let this podcast evolve. And just some of the things that you posted, and one of the things you talked about, you haven't talked about yet, about your family, but you come from a family of 4.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things you said was you're super close to your
brothers,
and then your which piques my interest because I have 3 boys. So like, Talk about your brothers. What are your brothers doing?
So I am one.
Where are you at?
I'm number 2.
Okay.
So my oldest brother's 2 years older than me, followed by the third is 5, and then the last one's 8 years younger than me. My oldest brother, he kind of is like an entrepreneur. He does a lot of things. He he rents like campers to people. He like has like bouncy houses. He does like he's just like all over the place, but he does very well for himself. Like he's just like he kind of dives into something and just like if he can make money out of it, he does it. He went to school to be a teacher, didn't like it. Now he's just kind of like if he can dive into it, he does that. He was a finance manager working for my dad for a while. My dad is an RV manager. He runs Camping World here in like Southern Ohio.
See, Jason, you should have been here. You could have been on that camper you got.
Yeah. My other brother is a salesman at a boat dealership. He loves it. He's like a very happy-go-lucky guy.
You got all the right brothers, like campers, boats.
I was like the one who didn't get
I'm
into
not worried
sales.
about your mental health. I'm like, this guy's like, hey, we got a camper, we got a boat, we're fine. Like, what's the next one? What's that? He's doing properties. No, I'm getting that.
Yeah, and then the youngest one is an auto dealer.
Wow, I'm feeling all sorry. I should have started this off at the very beginning.
And I'm the black sheep who's like, I don't want to go into sales. So,
but you're in sales though.
Sales of justice.
I mean, I think. I think most people in the military always will say they're not in sales, right? Like, so if you're working with someone, another agency, and you're trying to get them to do what you want to do, and you're selling an idea.
Okay, I think we're stretching it, but I'll take it.
I don't though. This is one of the things I'm talking about. Like, I think so. When I got out of the military, in 05, what were you doing in 05? I can't even imagine.
I was in school, middle school.
Nobody answered that question other than Chad, who's here. But when you get out, there's like all of a sudden the military, all you're good at is operations and management, right?
Mm-hmm.
What they tell you, or law enforcement, or whatever. But like when you get into that corporate America, but if you think about it, if you were a leader, you sold ideas, you sold plans, you sold a lot of different things. And I think that it's not a stretch. I tell all veterans, if someone's telling you you're getting out and you can't be in sales, you're wrong. Especially if you've been a leader, you've had to sell ideas. Like I can't tell you how many times I've talked to my battalion commander and said, I think it's the stupidest fucking thing in the entire world. I'm not doing it. And they're like, shut the fuck up, you're doing it. And you go back and you got to tell 120 people, this is the best idea in the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is, so it is sales.
Okay,
it's not selling a car, but it is selling an idea. I think that's an important thing of so that you were the Marshals I was stretching out a little bit, but you got car, boat, and RV. Like, I mean, how are your vacations? I feel like these have got to be pretty good. And now I know why Larry's hanging out with you.
Yeah, right.
You didn't. He's fine. Larry's like, why the hell are we not staying in a sweet ass RV or something?
Yeah. No, I mean, we were all really close growing up and still are. The younger one, the one that's 5 years younger than me, he's expecting a girl in November, his first as well. So it's kind of fun to go through it together. When we did our gender reveal, he was like, have fun at cheer practice.
So you did the gender reveal?
Yes.
What did you do?
My wife just bought cookies and
it was
just like family. No, it was like family and like it's like we bought cookies. Everybody bit into them at the same time.
Because my kids give me a hard time. I think the gender reveal thing, especially when people do videos and
it gets
trying
way
to do
overboard.
baseball and they're doing all this kind of stuff. I'm kind of like,
I disagree. I did not want anything to do with that.
Well, I mean, you see the 4% of the people who fail. Like, if you're going to do a baseball toss and you miss it, like, dude, I mean,
that's your first
you deserve
impression.
everything you're getting. I mean, and your kids, like 20 years later, be like, "Oh, we did." But it's a personal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just did the cake.
That's just more like family. It wasn't like we didn't do anything crazy.
Like,
and then brother did the same thing, and I was like, have fun paying for a wedding. But I gotta do the same thing. So.
Because there's elaborate shit. Like I saw like a helicopter was flying by and like, dropping. Like holy crap. Like I just go back to my family. If my wife would have found out, we did like a gender reveal with a ton of people, and she found out that my youngest son was a boy. It would have been awful for everybody involved because it was awful for me that day. I was like, I'm glad I'm the only person. And I was so Gabe. I'm like, your mom was super pissed at your boy, but it's but I can't imagine like 100 people being like, looking at my wife and we're not even happy. She's like, It's an interesting time.
Yeah.
It
gets overboard. It absolutely gets overboard with the whole gender reveal thing and
I
everything.
like the cake though. The cake's a good idea. Small group of people, but like anytime like helicopter hitting a golf ball, like if anytime, like the baseball one cracks me because there's got to be 100.
Can you imagine the first impression for your kid as you fail?
Because it's on there forever. Like you're gonna get, like even like if you don't tell them about it, they're gonna like eventually be like, because every fucking kid has an iPad now. That's another thing too. Like you have the easy parenting now. Like you're just gonna be like they're like kids are like they'll be able to like find you on TikTok. You didn't even know it. They're like 4. Like
right.
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, that's enough. So he's expecting a girl too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So see him at cheer practice and stuff. It'll be exciting. Yeah.
Has that brought you guys? Who are you closest to get?
Growing up, my older brother. But like as an adult, like probably the third, like my younger brother from me. He's also like interested in like hunting and stuff like that too. So we've gotten into that together. My oldest brother, like he golfs and does that sort of thing. He's a video game guy. Like I just never was into that. I can't sit there and do that. I like to be out doing something. But yeah, I mean, the youngest one's like obviously way younger than me. He just graduated from college this year and stuff like that. And he's moved to North Carolina. But obviously, I talk to all of them. We always attend everything that, like, everybody always makes it like a thing to be there for each other. So, like I said, back to that perspective thing, right? Like, I don't see myself as like having like bad at all. Like I had a great childhood. My dad always provided. My parents had my oldest brother at 17 and me at 19, and my dad worked 2 jobs and still graduated high school. Like he could have absolutely been that not present father and just walked away. But I never went without, and he's done extremely well for himself. Like owned his own business, sold his own business. Now he, is a very high up executive in like Camping World, and he's just, he's made it for himself. And my mom was always there as a great mother. And it's like, they could have made every excuse in the world to not be there. And like, I've always like idolized my dad for that. It's like, he's like very disciplined and hardworking person. It's like, I don't have time to make an excuse or like ponder on something that goes wrong. Like you just have to keep, doing what needs to get done. And remember, like I always say, like, you just got to count your blessings, right? Like, yeah, something goes wrong, but like that's life. But you're very fortunate. Like there's people that have it way worse than you. There's always someone that's going through more than you are. So
I think that's a word of wisdom. I think that's our thing. Is I'm guilty of it too. So you get bogged down in something that's so small and trivial, and then I was driving home and there's a lady going like 30 miles an hour in a 45, and I'm like freaking out. And then like you look, and then there's a handicap sticker, and then immediately I'm like, this idiot shouldn't be on the road with a handicap sticker. And then you have to take a deep breath and be like, oh my God, this could be my.
It's Larry flipping you off.
Yeah. No, but I mean, that's the thing. Throwing his leg at you, like, no, it's crazy. But no, it just comes down to like, I think that's one of the things that we talk about. And I guess we're coming to close here, unless there's something else more you want to go into. I think it's always funny. Like it's funny. I keep writing down questions, and it's funny how you guys all just handle it for me. It makes my job so much easier. I can just sit here and drink and listen to the stories, which are awesome. But the message is like what we talked about is like we have to start delivering some messages, and we'll get into some other stuff here in a second. But I think you have a great mindset about it. Is why I was super excited to have you on. Not on this story, like people are talking about, it's great. He's a deputy U.S. Marshal. That part of me is not. It's interesting, right? But the part of like, someone that, what you went through and not getting what you want and you're still being successful, that absolutely can happen. Like count your blessings. You may not think it's a blessing, but it can. It's out there. Like you just have to find it. You have to work to find it. And I think we're guilty of that as veterans and law enforcement and first responder community. You have to find what makes it positive about it, because you are surrounded by a lot of negative things. And dude, nothing goes your way, right? I mean, we don't even know if this broadcast is still live. I don't even know. But
it's a good conversation,
which is great. I don't care. We could have shut it off, but we're going to still run like it is. I don't give a shit. But so we're going to come to the part of, we're going to change this up a little bit. Normally, we come to the part of the podcast where we honor a veteran. I did make fun of Katie a little bit. She wouldn't come on camera. This is your last chance to come on. She doesn't want to come on. Come on. Switch seats with her. Here. I knew she would. You get in here. We're going to switch. I knew she would change her mind.
No, I don't. I'm just standing.
Get in there. It's fine. because this might not even be live. You don't even know what's going to happen.
Perfect, yeah,
Like, swing the mic into so we can hear you. So we have a special guest tonight. You've seen some stuff on Boards of Patriots. We've been hyping it up a little bit. We're going to hype it up here in the next couple, 48 hours. But Katie is like us. She's on the board of a 501c3 charity. You've seen the t-shirts here. I'm wearing one. You can't really see it. My guys would be critiquing it because it's like, for Alex, it's so small, but I like it. Like I got it in there. But you see this. But Katie and her friend
Bridget Reedy,
started a 501c3, but started a volleyball tournament and fundraiser for their friend who committed suicide. It spiked the stigma, mend the mind.
Yep.
So Pours with Patriots will be there Saturday. We couldn't be more proud to be there to support the cause. But what's a little bit different in the past is that Alex was not a veteran, but I don't give a shit. This is an epidemic that has to stop. So I'll honor Alex first. I'll do the word stuff, and then I'll give you a chance to talk about him in a different way because I haven't met him. But so tonight, unlike in the past, we're not going to honor a service member. We're going to honor someone else who, as I always say, is in our message is it may be harsh, but it's not a good decision. But tonight we're going to honor Alex Lawrence Wilhelm, 30 years old. Alex took his life on March 10th, 2021. Alex was born January 31st, 1991 in Dayton, Ohio. He graduated from Bellbrook High School where he played on the Golden Eagles football team. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. I know. I didn't even know this is hard because the hardest one is like actually when I honored a friend of mine, but so I'm going to keep pushing through. So Alex loved fishing, kayaking, hunting, hiking, mountain biking, and spending time on his family's houseboat at Norris Lake, Tennessee, which Katie made sure I threw that in there. He was an avid sports fan and thoroughly loved his OSU Buckeyes. Alex loved to have fun with his high school, college, work, and volleyball friends. Alex took pleasure in his job and relished helping his patients and their families. Like I just mentioned earlier, in his honor, his friends and teammates established an annual volleyball tournament and fundraiser, Spike the Stigma, Mend the Mind, to support suicide prevention and mental health education, especially among men. 100% of their proceeds raised from this event are donated to local nonprofit 501c3 organizations that are dedicated to preventing suicide, providing services to those who struggle with mental illness, and helping families and individuals who have impacted by the loss of suicide. Alex is survived by his dad, Randy, Kathy, his sister, Sarah, Ray, brothers Kevin and Brad, grandmother Carolyn, nieces and nephews Emily, Will, Hannah, Luke, Leyland, and London, and his dog Gunner. And like we always say, it doesn't matter if you're a veteran or anybody that is considering suicide. You absolutely have to contact the Veterans Crisis Hotline or the Suicide Crisis Hotline, which is 988 or 1-800-273 8255 and press 1, or you can actually text 838-255. And I just learned last night you can actually text 988 now to do that. So that's a hard one to deal with you here. I'm glad you came on camera. So we're excited about this. So tell us a little bit. This is important. This is why I started. And, I started with the podcast and it evolved into a 501c3. So obviously Alex's decision was a huge impact.
Huge impact. We met only in 2019 and we all kind of just realized our friend group had the same interests: volleyball, dogs, hiking. He was a big hunter. It wasn't my thing, but but just outdoorsy guy, fun guy. So we met. Just a friend was hosting weekly volleyball games, and then from there we started a rec beer league at Woodland's backyard. And Alex was just a part of our core six, and we played with him for years. And then one day, he just didn't show up to work. It just affected us very deeply, and we would have never thought that he was somebody that would have done that. He was the funny guy. He was, he had this amazing beard and this like contagious laugh, and super athletic, and loved his dog. Hiked with his dog every weekend. Like, we'd be out drinking on Saturday. Sometimes he'd be like, "Catch you later. I'm going to hike at 6 a.m. at Zaleski Park." So it was, it just impacted it. I had never personally experienced anything like that, so it really hit me hard. And my friend Bridget and I just decided we needed to do something, especially because a lot of our guy friends are just like Alex, and we didn't want to, miss any signs that we clearly had missed with Alex again, or have anyone else experience what we went through. And just seeing his family impacted was super hard. His parents are the best. Kathy and Randy are the sweetest people in the world, and we all just it was a hard pill to swallow that someone could be truly struggling and you literally don't see it.
So were there any signs that you thought you met that looking back now that you missed?
Looking back, no, which is the hard part. That's the hardest part, because he was active. He was outside in nature. He was doing those things that you're supposed to do to keep your mind and body healthy. He had a huge friend group. He loved whiskey. Whiskey Wednesdays were our thing. That was our volleyball league night. And so we aren't sure what was going on, but he said he knew he could have turned to a lot of people. But so we just wanted to urge, when people are feeling that low, just say something, because we would have been there in a heartbeat for him.
Yeah, you gave me a hard time when I said something off key about the stigma. The big thing is the stigma, and it's a stigma of anything, of like whether my stigma is like the military. It's different. Like I know Alex was in the military, but there's still, when you're a man, like you're an outgoing person, you're funny or whatever, you're doing all these things that you still can be struggling. It is important that you just be honest. I mean, it's like I said before, because I commend your bravery. Come on, I know you didn't want to do this. I knew I keep pushing it. I can't believe you actually came on. I feel good. I'm like, yes. No, but that's important. But the reason I wanted to come on is because obviously, we're partnering down this, and suicide it's an epidemic that unfortunately involves too many people, but unfortunately for my demographic, it's even really hard. It's crazy. So we just talked off camera. You were talking like the 988 just went live a little over a year ago. I think it was July 17th of 2002.
It was July 17th because it was the same day as our tournament last year, which was it was kind of cool and ironic.
And I just read some stuff that, since then there's been like 5 million calls to the 988. Over 1 million of them have come from veterans, and you need to really look into the whole thing of what's going on. But you definitely, like we said before many times, why I wanted to come on is I wanted to have that. I want people to see the effects of it, like you said before. That suicide has some serious effects on the people behind, and that's a part of. I've lost friends that have done it, and there's a part of me that is still angry with them because of the burden they put on somebody else. But definitely, like we said before, I've already talked about it before, but if you're considering suicide or know someone that is, whether you're a veteran or not, absolutely dial 988 or call 1-800-273-8255, press 1, or text 838-255. And now I think I just learned last night you could actually text 988 and talk to someone. But let's talk more about the happiness now. So we're a couple more days. We're going to have the
third annual.
Is it third?
Yeah,
I thought it was second.
Third one.
Oh, wow.
He died in 2021, but we're
I'm not doing my research right
now. You're all right.
But it's Spike the Stigma, Mend the Mind volleyball tournament and fundraiser. It's going to be at the Woodlands backyard
in Grandview.
We're going to be posting some stuff on, but check out. We'll shoot a link. It should be coming up on Alex's the post we do there. You can get linked to your guys' website to do that. But come out, support the cause. You want us to play volleyball maybe next year? We will.
I think you guys. I think we need a Ports of Patriots team next year for sure.
We definitely. I mean, we're in the pickleball. The Ports of Patriots team.
You'd be great.
The Ports of Patriots team is in the pickleball. We recently got into pickleball. Some are better than others. I'm just gonna say we haven't had everybody out, but I mean the old guys, Chad and I are pretty much dominating the whole stuff. What's going on? But we could be contributing to the $1 million of. Calls to the emergency room for pickleball. If I would have played volleyball this Saturday, I would guarantee that two things would happen. I was going to have a heart attack, or I was going to go to the emergency room. So I'm going to do a different thing. We're going to have a booth set up. If you're following Ports of Patriots, we're going to have some really great raffle items. We're going to have free beer. You can't go wrong with free beer. Yeah, free beer from our friends at Zaftig. You buy a ticket, you get a free beer while supplies last. So I feel like I have to say that now. Like, see that like the lawyers like while supplies last. Caveat. We're gonna have some sweet merchandise, but most importantly, we're supporting a great cause, which is to stop suicide. It has to stop. We have to figure this out. And I wanted to come on because we're like Wonder Twins. Like this is you're doing it. There's a different. It's a different demographic, but it's the same thing that needs to stop. So, anything else you want to say about Saturday? We're there from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
If you want to stay till 2 a.m. Last year it was all night. It's a banger. There's a DJ at 4:30. There's Jeep stacking this year if you're into Jeeps. So
Are you Jeep?
I got a Jeep. Yeah, it's outside.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
You like doing the stacking up on that? You like the
Yeah,
carpet
mine won't be
tracing?
stacked, but
Oh man, my brother-in-law's and my brother-in-law's into that. I'm always like, why? Like what?
it's a
it's a Jeep thing.
It's
So what's with the
the wave.
ducks?
I
What's
think
with
it's
the
the
ducks?
wave. I only have one duck, and it's a military.
So tell
duck,
me the
but-
ducks. Like I see my youngest son's girlfriend has a Jeep, and I just noticed the other day there's like all these ducks on
Yeah.
it. Like what's the?
I think I don't know. I think too many ducks is a thing for me. I just like the one duck, but they collect them. It's a real thing. We've got this guy at Woodlands. He's got like 72 on his dashboard.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
don't know. It's just a thing. It's the same with the wave, the Jeep wave.
So it's the Woodlands backyard.
Woodlands backyard. It's all day. First tournament's at 10:30. Goes until about 4:30. DJ comes on at 4:30. There's a barrio food truck. You guys will be there. A lot of the beneficiaries that we're donating to Lost Community Services, which is a great organization that helps with people who have lost someone to suicide. And then we've got Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation, Columbus Public Health. They will have, while supplies last, lock boxes for any families that have guns in the home, which is awesome. They're giving those away for free. And yeah, and then another one from California. It's called Take Time, Speak Your Mind. It's a young man, actually graduated with him. He'll be there talking about men's mental health. So lots of great resources. It's really just a great day to connect and find those resources when you might be struggling that day, but a month from now, you'll be like, hey, I have this number now, or 988's great. It's a good day. It's fun.
Yeah.
And then there's a special drink. It's the Wilhelm whiskey. Alex's last name was Wilhelm. And so his favorite drink was whiskey. So I think we get a kickback for every Wilhelm whiskey that's with Bullet whiskey. So
Awesome.
Purchase
awesome.
for the day.
We might have to talk off camera about some ideas we can do with that. But
yeah.
thank you for coming on. I know you didn't
Thank you
want to
for
come on. I
having
felt
me.
like she was on, she was off, she was off, she was off. I was like, dude, we're gonna get her on here. We're gonna figure it out. Her boyfriend was like pushing it. It's okay. But I wanted it's important to see the passion you have in it, and I
Yeah.
really have a ton of respect for your organization, what you guys are doing. Because we have to pull out all the stops to stop
stops,
this, and
yeah.
it's important. So come see us. There'll be some great things there. Like I said before, free beer,
Free beer.
some great,
Good times.
some free beers, free merch. We might have some bourbon. Most likely, we probably have. But come by and see us. But most importantly, come out and support the cause. There's going to be a lot of organizations out there that
Yeah.
absolutely
All have the same.
need the support
same
and
goal.
have the same mission to.
Yeah.
to
And
end
we're doing an
suicide.
art auction too. Silent art auction. Lots of local artists have donated
Okay.
a lot of pictures. So
Okay.
good stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to add? You're going to close it out. Episode 36.
I would say to keep it on the veteran side. I had a personal experience, real quick story. My dad was in the hospital in January, and he used 988, and it was a veteran that called him. So if you ever are in that boat and you want to talk to a like-minded person, if you're doing the 988 for a veteran need, they'll hook you up with a veteran to talk to you. And
Yeah.
it was important. It's powerful. Good guy, same as John.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good job, John. And like I
Mhm.
said before, our two mantras that we continue. I don't know if we stole them from anybody, but I don't care. But we're going to take them as be there, be resilient, and those are the two things I think are important. Is you have to be there for when that person calls. There's people in this room that I've called at a crazy time, and they answered. And that's important. So you definitely have to be there for that person.
Mhm.
And then also is to be resilient. Is like reach out. If you like, I've done it before. Call 27 people before one person answers.
Yeah.
Just do it. It's worth it. If it's 988 or if it's just a friend
Just
or
a
whatever.
friend,
But
yeah.
it's
Half the time,
important,
we're talking to Jason on the phone, and he'll be like, his buddy from when he served will call, and he'll be like, I got to go.
Yeah.
Do it. He answers right away. So thanks
So
for
thanks
having
for
me.
joining
Yeah.
us, Logan. We didn't mean to kick you off, buddy. Come in
All
here.
right.
It's no, it's a special thing. So we
Yeah,
didn't
absolutely.
kick you off there, but thank you, Logan, for episode 36. Thanks for your service. Katie, thank you for what you're
Thank you.
doing. We'll
Thank you
see.
guys
We're
for what
going to
you're
be
doing.
spending a day with you. It's going to
Yeah.
be fun. So
It'll be a good time.
we're going to end it with our. We're going to end it with a. I had one. Do you want to do the white? He left, but I'll do the White Earp quote. Right? Like you probably heard this one before. We'll do that one. That one's easy. There's so many good. Like it goes back to the movie. So I don't know if this is in the movie or whether you said
That
it or
one's a real
not.
wider quote.
What's that? But
That
he
one's
said,
a real one.
"Fast is fine, but accuracy is everything." Right?
He does a
Shoot fast, well. Right?
Yeah, he did a documentary on the art of gunfighting.
Yeah.
And that's a real quote from him.
So I did well, right?
Yeah.
And then so we'll end it with actually a quote. I think that is, all joking aside. I mean, we'll end it on night episode 36. Thanks again for coming. But we'll end it on a quote from a fellow Deputy U.S. Marshal, Dennis Coughlin. We learn about our past and honor those who have passed. When we graduate from the U.S. Marshals Academy and receive the Silver Star, we become part of the Marshals legacy. So thank you for being part of that legacy. Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for everybody that's listening, and we will see you in a couple weeks. Hopefully we see you in a couple days at the event, Woodlands
Backyard.
Did I say free
Brand
beer?
new.
Did I say free beer? So we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
See ya.